Hi everyone, welcome to Round the Table, a planetary classroom beyond the 2D frame. We are now in the main Here Is campus of the Bartlett UCL. So this is a series of experimental VR roundtable events bringing together architects and technologists who are working and learning interdisciplinarily between the virtual and the physical. So we will discuss the future of collaborative spaces and the tools that interface us. We are the organizer of the event. Welcome, everyone. I am Professor Ng, currently teaching at the Bartlett School of Architecture, UCL.
I'm Alberto Fernandez, teacher here as well in this school, as well PhD candidate and professor at University of Chile. From the lessons that we are learned from the past year, we have a question related with: can we imagine a more sustainable, inclusive, interactive, and accessible educational environment that help us to communicate beyond the 2D frame? And most importantly, how would this shift bring changes to our urban environment and the way in which we distribute tasks between the virtual and physical environments?
Yeah, so each event we have a different sub-theme for the roundtable. Today we will be discussing the Phygital and the Cyber-physical. We have invited architects and technologists in conversation to share with us their experience and their discourse and projects in the field, which speculates on novel communication spaces that are transformative to ways in which we collaborate. And this includes human-human, human-machine, and machine-machine interactions. The roundtable will develop together with our guests a critical rethink on the future of collaborative work in education, a collaborative intelligence, and how that might manifest and influence the use and design of the built environment.
Yes, but before we start, we would like to give you our sincere thanks to all the guests who contribute to this effort till now, with as well with their time and knowledge. We are also very grateful to UCL Research Leading Initiative Awards, which is supporting and funding this series of events that we are running now. Each guest will give us around 10 to 15 minutes introduction of their work, followed by a 40 minutes roundtable discussion of this event. The event will last a total of 2.5 hours approximately.
Yes, exactly. So this is the very last roundtable, and each roundtable we compiled customized VR space for each guest. So for that, we must teleport ourselves. If you would kindly navigate down the corridor, the first room would be at the end of it. Yeah, just hover your cursor on top and then you will see visit room, and you can just press that. Awesome. Cool, so this is the first room. Before we start, I shall introduce our guests. Maybe we can wait just 1 minute and for everybody to reach the room. Awesome. So I will start introducing you guys. So Phygitalism is a developer of visual solutions based on artificial intelligence, augmented and virtual reality in the B2B market. The company's projects are awarded over 60 World Awards, including Red Dot, Webby, Shorter, and others. The company leads its own master's degree program at State University in VR, AR, ML fields, conducting visual researches and developing projects combine science, art, and businesses. We are very honored to have the participation of the co-founder and CEO today, Oleg Yusupov, and tech trend analyst Daria Makina. So the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
It is very nice to meet you, and it's actually a very honor to be part of this great event. So First of all, today we want to present you how technologies can actually change the way we learn and live and work. We want to focus on education in our presentation. However, all these trends can be relevant to all spheres, from art to business and science, of course. Um, and of course, we are sort of experts on the market because we have been for six years on the platforms of art, science, and business areas. And that's why we have created many apps from AI to 3D and AR and VR. And we know how to actually help other spheres to enhance their existing processes. So we have different projects with many companies such as Volkswagen, ArtLife, Ingrad, and actually Kaspersky Lab. And together with Microsoft, we have launched a master's program at Moscow Aviation Institute. And we had already 2 graduate years, and this is our third year of teaching and educating young professionals and students about Phygital. Of course, we are trying to raise awareness about technologies and help everyone to get their hands on it. And our students actually are able to have the internship in our company, and we help everyone to be in touch with all technologies from VR to AR and machine learning. But of course, it is not only about teaching, but rather about exchanging the experience. And that's why such events as this one can actually help everyone to share their knowledge. So, what is Phygital anyway? I guess everyone is quite familiar with this sort of term. Phygital is a combination of physical and digital worlds. It is about interaction between people and technology. And we already live in it. We just think that it's only in its infancy. And we strongly believe that it is our future. Digital is actually a new way of interaction. First of all, there has been a text user interface, then there has been a graphical, then there has been natural, and now we think that it evolves into digital or natural user environment. And as just an example how interactive technologies changed over time, it is how Instagram AR masks are now a totally common thing, whereas like a few years ago, it has been only just a new technology what no one knew about. And right now, there is even new professions such as AR creators or Spark AI creators, and in some university, new programs such as AR and VR and ML development appear. So this is indeed an evolution, and this happens just in front of us. And following the space, the education, of course, evolves as well. First of all, it becomes rather a dialogue and interaction than a monologue. There are way more ways to interact with students right now than there has been 50 years ago, for instance. If there before has been only whiteboards on which you can write with chalk or pens, right now you can actually have interactive whiteboards, and they are digital because you can actually manipulate the picture or the presentation with the help of the physical object. So it is the digital in a nutshell. But of course, we want to focus rather on what we have already done for the sphere and actually to show how technologies help to deliver important messages, not only in art or business, but also in education as well. And we will start with the lessons of Auschwitz project. It is the most powerful project because it has been already Emmy nominated, and the whole idea of it was to teach the young generation important historical lessons. Because many students are actually ignorant of the past. They do not remember all the things that happened with their parents, with their grandparents, and ancestors in general. And to teach them, we brought 9 students from a Moscow high school. They were around 13 and 16 years old, and we brought them to Poland to personally see all the experience, and that is the Holocaust Memorial Museum. They visited the museum, they watched the Schindler's List film, and then they went to the actual concentration camp, and all these emotions which they been gone through, they express them in VR. And this application, which is called Tilt Brush, actually helped to express their emotions in the most powerful and immersive way. Because it has several types of brushes, and because it is 3D, there are more ways to actually express yourself. And all these impressions that they have been drawing, we put in a video which created such a powerful reaction within the public because it touches both the social and crucial topics such as history. And in general, such projects actually they aim to show how history can be retold with the younger generations through digital art. So here it is the actual example of how both physical and digital came together to create a digital experience which helped to influence minds of the young generation and create interest among all the generations, including us and of course the older generations. Another great example of how technologies can transform everything is our case with Kaspersky. Kaspersky Lab develops cybersecurity solutions, and I guess everyone is familiar with this brand. However, sometimes it is very hard to explain how things work, especially with images, videos, or presentations. And understanding this problem, we created a digital table that consisted of two parts. One part was a table, you can see it on this slide on the left. The lowest part, it is one part with a table. It actually had a physical objects on it. These objects were placed on in a framed screen with tangible user interface. These objects represented parts of the industrial infrastructure. And the second part was the digital screen, which was above it, and it showed the cyber attack in real time. And when the user started moving the physical objects on the first table, his action actually affected the industrial object. So he somehow manipulated and created an individual scenario, and he understood how the attack occurs and what will happen if there is not enough security software. That's why, because it happens in the real time, and such digital stand can actually achieve a full understanding of how cybersecurity products work and why they are important. And this concept is very successful because it is immersive and it is interactive. Of course, the same idea can be used for education, and not only education, but for art, business, and marketing purposes. Explaining any topic by engaging the user is definitely more effective. For instance, you could explain difficult economic topics for students with such interaction, maybe like how the inflation affects both the state and the citizen, or how the taxes work. And by this, we can actually emphasize how complex topics can be told with digital and how interactive actually change the way how we perceive the world. And the last project which we want to talk about is, of course, about business. It is our case with creating business analytics apps. Of course, it can be usually seen as mainly business task because analytics is mainly analyst task. However, we see that these applications can be used anywhere. Talking about this project, we want to emphasize that this desktop and mobile app was developed for the real estate industry. And the amount of data there, it is numeric, geographic, it is like the huge amount of it. But nevertheless, it is extremely important to make decisions based on this data. And to make it easier to analyze, we created a 3D map and put different types of data visualization tools on it. And as the result, the final user sees an interactive presentation. And here you can see that, for instance, all the data is put on a geographical map of Moscow. So it is pretty easy to make a data-driven decisions based on it. And such map with data can be used, for instance, in geography, when we try to learn geographical features of the region, or in the economic sphere. The possibilities here, of course, are endless. And just to make it clear, the information is, of course, easy to understand and to remember when it is visual. Visual data is actually processed 60,000 times faster than the text. So encourage everyone to look on it as a new way of presenting information, and especially why 3D is important. However, the most useful tool, I guess, in education right now is collaborative platforms. Here we have a few videos of how we actually try to use different platforms such as Spaces, where our teacher of master program actually explains some algebra and geometry in Spaces. And the funny thing is that you don't have to face students to actually download the app. The teacher itself can actually just download it and put it in the Zoom so everyone can look on it. It is far more engaging, of course, than the typical Zoom conversations. Also, we have tried several platforms such as Spatial, such as Mozilla Hubs as well, and at which we are right now. And our overall experience is that right now spatial platforms are giving opportunity to every organization, both educational and business, to involve your team on such lockdowns as we have right now. And it is just examples of how something new for many people and feedback can actually create an experience which would change the way how we perceive digital, because it becomes rather 3D than 2D, and we actually can help everyone to be involved. And the lack of contact which we have, for instance, in Zoom conversations, is totally resolved by such solutions. Summing up all we spoke about, I think that all the technologies from 3D to AR, they help every sphere to evolve into something more magical and immersive. And we hope that all of us will be a part of this great new technological world. Thank you, everyone, and hope we can answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy how you're managing to synthesize between education, business, and design and science, which is for sure the future of STEAM. So without further delay, we will leave the Q&A to the roundtable section and let us proceed to the next room. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yep. The next room, the link is the painting on the wall. Cool. Cool. Let us just give it a few minutes for everybody to load.
Oh, this is the
Cool. Yep.
go through the ceiling.
Yep. But before that, maybe I'll just introduce our next guest, Ivan. I hope he's here right now. Ivan is in the lobby. I think he is probably having slow internet. Oh, he finally managed to enter the room. Okay, yes. He's having a slow internet. We'll just give him 2 more minutes. So I think actually Phygitalism collaborated with Ivan before, right?
Yeah, we actually held a Phygital Nights event with Ivan together. Yeah, it was also immersive on spatial platform. It was quite a cool experience.
Did you do it based on 3GS?
No, we actually just took a space which was available in spatial and just put our content in it, like 3D, 2D content. So
So
nothing like customizable. Yeah.
was it on the web? No. Yes.
No, it's in VR.
It's in VR,
not web.
Not web
Yeah.
VR. Okay, I see. Interesting.
It's possible on web, but for our experience, it will be better with all of speakers in VR devices.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, we put it on Mozilla because we really like their spirit of making it accessible to anyone with just a web browser or even just a mobile phone. The downside is that with such kind of setup, if you have a slow internet, it will it will be like what's happening now. I think Ivan keeps getting kicked out of this room because his internet is slow.
Yes.
Maybe with this moment, we can also have a quick Q&A with Phygitalism. So how did you guys came up with the idea to have a business with this concept, Phygital?
Oleg, would you answer or should I?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. Please repeat.
Like, what stimulated for you to found this company with the concept of Phygital?
We understand that cyber-physical systems and other immersive technologies could be immerse all of our life, and we understand that we don't know at this moment how we can interaction with these technologies. And for us, art, and so why we got our company Phygital, like art direction, like Bauhaus, suprematism, etc. Because art is give you a dream, give you answers of questions when you cannot prove on science or business, but in art you can imagine this, and so we called like Phygitalism.
Interesting. So you associate Phygital more with an artsy approach. But cool. I actually have more questions,
Yes.
but I think Ivan is here, so let me introduce you. Hi, Ivan.
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes. Okay, I'm so glad
Yes.
you're here.
Great.
So let me introduce you.
Great.
ARHead is a city-scale augmented reality operator. It combines future technologies for content creation to provide the most useful augmented reality experience for inhabitants. So ARHead provides solutions in AR art initiatives and real estate. We have Ivan Puzyrev here today to share with us their initiatives work. So Ivan is a AR/VR digital strategy expert and researcher focused on spatial computing and city-scale extended reality implication. He's working with different
Yeah,
international
that's a great
companies and
introduction.
universities on digital products-oriented technology as a tool for interplay between user, space, and digital layer. His latest project was presented at Mobile World Congress Shanghai 2019 and Sapporo City University in Japan. So let us welcome Ivan.
Yeah, wow, right. Thank you for invitation, first of all, and great to welcome everyone for this roundtable.
Yeah.
And first of all, I'd like to maybe say a few words about the place where we are now. It's kind of you're the first group of people who just see this space. It's actually the upcoming project we are doing for Hermitage Museum in Russia, one of the
Ooh.
leading museum. So it will be a digital museum actually for digital art, and this is my vision for what's the future of like presentation of digital art. And the huge team worked on this. And actually, are there any chance to go on the top level, because we are right now in the entrance room? Do you think it's possible to move
Yes,
a
definitely.
big room a bit?
Exactly. So now we'll have fun. Everybody, you have to press G on your keyboard to enable flight modes and just fly through the ceiling. So press G and fly through the ceiling. Yep. Oh, some guys are already here. Cool. Yeah. So for the audience, we actually rehearsed for this.
Yeah.
Cool. I think.
Yes.
Is Ivan here? Okay. Oh my god. I think Ivan has a slow internet, so he got kicked out again.
Yes, but it's not. Mine today is even worse.
I can tell. You keep disappearing. I will go down and
Yes.
wait for him.
I really want to have a fly mode in the real life.
Yes. I want the same. Yeah. Let's go to the the ceiling. Oh, cool.
May I also have a question to the previous presenters?
Yes,
while we're
please.
waiting?
That would be great. Yes, awesome.
Was your business triggered by the pandemic, or did you already start to found your company and to work and concentrate more on this topic before it happened?
We actually founded the company in 2015, so it was like way before the pandemic. But of course, like the pandemic helped us to get more instruments, such as like collaborative platforms. We started using them more because everyone is working remotely right now. So like a pandemic helped in some ways, but still we have seen the potential of Phygital way before the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to interrupt, but I can't access the second floor. I pressed the G, but
Hi.
to go and talk.
You have to just you have to
Yes.
look where you go.
Something simple. Maybe you.
Okay.
You must
Yes.
But
share
I
your
can't
screen
fly through the
in
ceiling.
the.
Oh.
Graphics
Maybe
screen,
try press
because
G
I'm not
again.
really sure if all the textures were correctly loaded in the scene.
Let's try change language.
So
Don't
I
worry.
can remember well. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sorry,
Oleg, you want to
Right.
help
Right.
him in Russian?
Right.
You see
Yeah.
a few images, but maybe you can
Change
share the
language
images
on
and then we
the
can walk throughout
keyboard.
the different projects.
Okay. That's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can do that too, but like we'll not be focusing on the. We'll talk about that in the next stream, so Ivan can
Yes,
come
exactly.
back to do his presentation. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you everyone for waiting, and do apologize for some numbers of issues with my internet. So let me start. I will try to be very quick. So what do you think if I will share a screen and show you a few slides? Do you think it
Yes,
will work?
of course. Go for it. Yep.
Yes.
Perfect.
Ask your
Let's do
internet,
this.
but we have no problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really
Can you see
well.
the screen now?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Perfect. So this is how it starts for me. Like almost 8 years ago, this is the first project we made with augmented reality. And now, as the provide says, is like we have represented on Mobile World Congress, for example. So what the thing I'm keeping in mind always is a quote by Cedric Price. I think many of you familiar with this amazing architect. From my perspective, he's doing an amazing job of like thinking about virtual reality without talking about virtual reality. And the quote I'm keeping in mind, if technology is the answer, so what was the question? And also kind of his vision for Fun Palace is definitely a form of VR when we can come inside a space, and space changing depends on what you think and what you want. And it's kind of also, I was really impressed by Christopher, Alexander, and Nicholas Nikropon. So all this group of architects is kind of always in my mind when I'm thinking about any kind of phygital or cyber-physical, because even the term architect, like what the architecture of your system is related to what these groups of people were developing. Of course, Super Studio, Ant Farm, Archigram is like very inspiring from perspective of what we are doing when we are talking about augmented reality and virtual reality. But my point is that there are no technology like there are no place for technology for a mass audience. I'm talking about like a few billions of people without actually having digital habit. By saying digital habit, I mean like we all know how to scan QR code. We all know how to pay with Apple Pay or Samsung Pay, but there are no digital habit for using augmented reality. So the question is, what will bring this digital habit? And the answer from our perspective is there are two ways. The first one is something useful like navigation, something like something which is giving me kind of opportunity, giving me the only way to do a really kind of to spend less time, let's say. Sorry for this small delay. The second way is to bring art in a space. So here's a few video we made. I'm not sure the video is a good way to share, but let's try. If it will be freezing, tell me. I will do it without video.
No
is it
problem.
Okay with streaming?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
It's working well.
Yeah, it's working well.
It's okay.
It's working well. Perfect. So this is the numbers of AR sculptures we are placing in right now in Dubai, and actually we are preparing some like worldwide exhibitions. The thing is that all these art pieces in augmented reality are not connected with Instagram. They are not connected with any application. It's just made on web. And each of these objects made by digital artists, and each of these objects has a smart contract. So I don't really like I don't want to bring this discussion to NFT, but I will just want to mention that yes, all of these art pieces in augmented reality connected with a smart contract. So it's NFT basically. So the thing is that we are not we have a direct way to present a digital object in a space with smart contracts, and it's really kind of giving a way for artists to have finally a tool to present their digital art in space in galleries or even in city scale. So here is a project we are right now kind of almost signed with the Dubai Culture Department, and they kind of want to have a city as a gallery project. So they don't want exhibitions. They want to have a permanent structure split all around the city, where you will have like an exhibition by exhibition with digital art objects. So the art objects you see right now in this kind of digital museum is part of the exhibition. And as I said before, they all have smart contracts. The important part of having a city-scale augmented reality is to have a kind of digital copy of the city. So that what we are also developing, a tool to create a digital scan of the city. So without having a LiDAR, actually, this is a software we are using right now and creating the kind of block by block, creating a copy of the city. Then we'll be available to place digital objects on top. And also we are developing like a LiDAR scanner for a phone, so everyone can start creating a copy of the physical world. So then you can implement augmented reality on top. But the technology behind it, it's kind of really scaring me, because what I'm seeing as a digital strategist, that the companies like Facebook, Apple, and Google, and Snapchat, and Niantic, who was developing a Pokemon Go, they start a fight for a point cloud. So they're trying to kind of compete. So who will first create a digital copy of the city? And this fight is kind of scaring me, because we all know that it's companies start entering our private spaces, and there are an enormous amount of ethical questions regarding like what is okay and what is not for platform companies to deal with a perspective of or like personal 3D data, let's say, from our personal. Let me maybe scroll down a little bit, and maybe and also of course, and Google also showing the same. The same battle for point cloud, let's say. So let me check. So yeah, this is a battle for point cloud, and from perspective of education, and I know that this roundtable is kind of pointed to a technology of using technology for education, I'm really glad that we are actually meeting in kind of virtual reality spaces, because this is the only way to speak about it. So, for example, yesterday I gave a lecture for a group of students, and we also met in virtual space, because this is the only way to educate. And for example, if I'm talking about augmented reality with someone, is the only way to do this is to actually to show augmented reality without any hype titles, with something like VR will change medicine forever. So I really don't like it. I prefer to go like a bit deeper to test this new technology, to go like find underlayer. So yeah, this is this is our perspective on education. I think we can go to a Q&A if you want, because I really want to keep it short. Provided, do you think it's okay, or do you want to tell me
Yes,
some more
thank you so
things?
much. That was awesome and very, very
Yes.
cool city-scale AI project. We will actually keep the Q&A at the round table. I'm sure we have a lot of different questions for each
Yes.
other. So thank you so much,
Exactly.
Yvonne. It's an awesome
Yeah,
space
thank you.
and
Thank you.
awesome sculptures.
Yes, let's go to the next room. If I'm having issues, provides, well, you can wait for me a few minutes.
Okay,
or a
no
minute,
problem.
and then we can start. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Yeah, the teleport gate is actually downstairs, but at the lower level. So if you just thank you so much,
Let's
Yvonne.
go.
Okay.
Portal. Where's the portal? Yes.
Portal is
The
here.
portal is in the portal.
Yeah, you go first. I'll wait for everyone.
I'm going first, just in case. Yeah.
Yeah, you go first. Let's check. Okay, space is clear.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we do. Alberto will introduce you, so let us just wait for him. He has a very poor internet. For guys who are watching on YouTube, just keep in mind that we will release all of the links to all of the VR rooms after this event, because the maximum capacity is actually 25 people. And if we let everybody in, it will probably crash the server. So cool. I think Alberto will be here in just a bit.
Okay. While we're waiting, can I test something?
Yes,
what happens if I
please.
share my screen, because I didn't do
Go
that
ahead.
yet. So if I do this, then it projects a little screen so I can show you guys whatever I'm doing.
Yes, and I can make your little screen bigger.
That's fine. That's fine.
Ooh, Rhino.
No, that's ArchiCAD.
Oh, sorry. ArchiCAD. Oof.
Ooh, yes.
I like this.
Yes. That's awesome.
Wow, so beautiful.
Wait, okay.
It's like the solitaire.
But that was interesting.
Yep.
Wasn't indeed.
And there are a lot of models here. Are these students' work?
Yes, that's what I wanted to show to begin with.
Cool.
It's sort of like our interpretation of the digital education event from last year, and this is going to be one of the things that I will emphasize on.
Awesome.
Not everyone came through. Not everything came through as I see. So some of the textures, etc. So we can walk around and you can see this sort of like as a virtual exhibition of students' artworks while I'm speaking. So if you remain in hearing distance, because I saw that also happens, then we can check out the student works together and take a walk in Graf Park. Okay.
Yeah,
maybe that's gonna be a good thing. And to be fair, I have just a few slides, but they're not actually that important. So maybe I'll just keep talking, and we can just take a walk on the street. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We're actually waiting for Alberto, who will introduce you. He has quite a slow internet, and it's still loading, I believe.
That's fine. Will he see us if we walk a
Cool.
few hundred meters away?
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Are you going to introduce the projects?
Not necessarily. This was more of a virtual exhibition
Okay, cool.
environment for them to introduce their own little projects to the other teams.
Oh, I see. Interesting. And
back when we were doing this event last year, and we have something very similar happening this year too.
And it happens in VR?
Well, in VR translated to Graphisoft terms. So if we're talking about BIM software, it's a little bit difficult to. Well, it's not difficult, but you could use Twinmotion, you could use Enscape, you could use a lot of things. But technically, what you're trying to visualize are the building elements and their information and their details. So what we used for this was our own little interactive tool, BIMX. So they were presenting their work in there.
I see. Cool. Interesting. I think
I'll
he's
try to
here.
show that to you also.
I can imagine that. Yeah, look the ArchiCAD trees in the simplified way. Like
Hi, Alberto. Do you want to start with the introduction?
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
Cool.
Yes, sure. I was just arriving. I realized that someone is using my internet without permission.
Permission.
That's the main problem. Yes. So, well, I must change the password and the security later, but while I'm here. Well, sorry for that. It's not my fault.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I'm going to introduce Graphisoft now. Yeah. Well, founded in 1982, Graphisoft develops ArchiCAD, the industry-leading building information modeling software solution for architecture and design. Slavoj is an architectural engineering, graduated from the Technical University of Budapest. He worked in various segments of our industry during his studies: construction, design, project management, and after graduation, he joined Graphisoft. He started as a technical support engineering at the headquarters and Graphisoft UK in Nottingham later. And then became a presenter and trainer developing and delivering Graphisoft BIM classes around the globe. Consulting large accounts in all his work. He's also a guest lecturer at the Technical University of Budapest since 2020. He's focusing on higher education to develop the next generation of passionate ArchiCAD users. So welcome, Sabi, to this roundtable. Please, the scene is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Very much for the introduction. Oh, sorry, I just teleported myself away. Back to you. So hi everyone, I'm Sobi. I'm working for Graphisoft, and I am responsible for coordinating and for managing the global education program that we have around the globe. By global education program, I mean how the software is represented in academic institutions and how students can access and use the tools that we have. Luckily, on the side, I do have a teaching job at the University of the Technical University of Budapest, and also am still involved, luckily, with a lot of educational projects, a lot of trainings, a lot of different sessions that we have for students around the globe. And by working for a global company, has its advantages to have a global audience too. So for example, in the room where you are right now, what you see, which I'm going to show you on ArchiCAD as well if I will share my screen just to share a few more details, is the final works of the finalists of our Basecamp event, which we had in 19 and then in 20. And I'm technically trying to share the story of how we were switching from a very live, very interactive event type to a more online and a more more distant type of event last year. So we weren't as prepared as, for example, Daria was presenting, because we didn't start our online journey in 2015, because we had an event that we called Basecamp in 2019, which is sort of like an international event for students where they gather, where they learn our BIM software from us. They work together with each other. It's kind of like a mini Erasmus thing, but more focusing on the use of the software and more working together as a team using the tools of GraphSoft. So ArchiCAD, BIM Cloud, and other things. And now let me just share my screen real quick, because I'm just going to focus on a few things for now. Can you now see the window? Oh yeah, here it is. That's good.
Yep.
Okay, you see the PPT now, hopefully? Yeah?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I will try to tell a story which is somewhere in between on my professional job and my university achievements, university engagements. So we found it most difficult last year when we switched from a very live to a very online environment to find answers for these 4 questions, because education for us was sort of like around these 4 terms. So how could we make our classes more interactive? Because in the school we have a certain way of walking to the students' chairs, walking around in a room, helping them, seeing their reactions, seeing their works live, but actually this isn't available online. So we needed to find a way on how to monitor, how to keep them motivated, how to mentor them, and how to keep the online design process interactive enough. Well, compared to the presentation that Ivan just showed in his previous one, we are focusing on BIM software, and because we're focusing on BIM software, the design workflow mainly focuses more on architectural engineering. So somewhere in between art and engineering, somehow becoming a rational creative. So we do need some sort of constraints and some sort of systems to be in place in order to be successful at the end of the semester. The second question that I wanted to ask is what technology we use. We have a number of technologies available around the globe. People might use Revit, people might use AutoCAD, people might use SketchUp or ArchiCAD or Rhino or anything. But technically, we need to find a way to collaborate while all of these people are sitting in their own individual little rooms, offices, universities. So what sort of technology can merge all of these different tools together, and how can we make the design process technologically possible while we're very distant? The third question that I wanted to add, that I'll throw out also during the conversation later, is how do you maintain the relationships with those students who you educate? How are you able to build those similar relationships that you had in a classroom? What are the advantages of not being in the classroom, for example? Because we saw when we were teaching online at university last year, I saw that this situation, not being in the classroom and not having this classic I'm teaching you sort of setup, we really switched into a much more peer-to-peer level of learning together. So me as a teacher, I wasn't too different from any of the people who we taught. More or less, we were having conversations on these classes rather than just teaching and them following the curriculum. Finally, we also needed to find a way to motivate these guys to keep, engaged and be in the classroom. Obviously, this whole conversation is going to be about that. But for me, for example, to attend an online event is very, very different to attend a live event, because on a live event, you commit to those, 3 days of conferences. When you go in the room, you sit there, regardless of if the presentation is interesting or not, you can just, you just sit there and you might phase out a bit, and you are only focusing on those parts which you are interested in. But in case of online events, and if the content isn't interesting enough, then you can hit that X immediately, and then you can just get out of the environment, and there are no obligations, no physical obligations to stay in the environment. So these were the issues mainly that we needed to find an answer for, and we're still finding the answer for these questions while teaching online. So what the story I'm going to tell in the environment where you are is focusing on a couple of our tools, mainly because we have this event that I just announced that we call Basecamp. Now, as I said, this is more of an interactive, or it was designed to be an interactive event, interactive global event for international students to gather and to work together with our tools. But in 2020, we really needed to find an alternative way on how to turn a 2-week, intensive on-site design project into something different that can still work and then still holds all of those values that we wanted to convey to the students. So we actually approached the situation with a methodology to take a project that is right in its size, configuration, repetitiveness, and complexity, and taking groups where we could socially create those kind of dynamics that normally would happen in an architecture practice that naturally would trigger itself to become a healthy working relationship. There aren't any good ways on how to do this. So for example, especially in case of the socially constructing the project groups, it's a very difficult thing to anticipate who is going to step up and who is going to take that leading position, who is going to be giving up the design for managing the project from the BIM perspective, for example, and becoming the project manager, or who are going to be the guys who are going to mainly deliver the project rather than lead it or manage it from the background. About the buildings themselves, we could be a little bit more conscious. So the main delivery task on Basecamp Online was to remodel architectural classics, because in an online environment, we didn't really find the chance to create, let's say, some sort of interactive space where they could design something new together effectively in a short time, because this event was actually 4 weeks long. We needed to find them, however, the examples that they could try the things that we wanted to teach them, and that they could follow the curriculum so that they learn eventually the same amount of things that they would learn by moving forward in their own design process. So we were scouting for projects that covered these four areas in different ways. So, for example, a building's size is important on how much work you put into it. The configuration is important on how many smaller buildings there are, how many parts you can split the projects up on. And finally, there's the repetitiveness that you can use to use typical blocks, let's say, model certain blocks and then multiply those blocks and use them as repetitive elements. And finally, the complexity makes it either very detailed or less detailed. So eventually we went with choosing, again, architecture classics, which all of the projects gathered these four attributes in different proportions. So for example, let's say remodeling a Mies van der Rohe building from Chicago or remodeling Alvarato's building from Finland, remodeling Frank Lloyd Wright's Robbie House, because it has, for example, this is in size, it is small. However, it's very complex. It's absolutely not repetitive, and it's very detailed. Oscar Niemeyer's building from Brazil, has a very unique form. It's not repetitive. It's not that detailed, so it's sort of like balanced out between these four things. Let's take Kurokawa's building. That's in a way very repetitive, so there's like 3 or 4 of the same types of cubes. However, the structure and the modeling strategy needs to be very difficult. It's a split level building. From building structure perspective, it's you have to give it a lot of thought on how to model these. So, and there were actually 2 more buildings that the students modeled. I just didn't add those here. But my point is that the good thing about this whole process was that they could still learn building orientation, building information modeling put into practice, but we couldn't add the element of design into the process because we didn't have enough time, and we didn't have the environment yet to help them to become more to help their design thinking. We were mainly focusing on the delivery rather than the design thinking. That was one of our difficulties. Let me show something else, because for this I need to share my screen instead of the PowerPoint window. So we have used our platform BIM Cloud for this, where we were able to put together their folders, and people were using and modeling things in the BIM Cloud environment. Having the BIM Cloud environment make it possible for us to, for a Brazilian student, a Mexican student, one from Russia and one from Germany, all together put into a team to model together in one same model. So that's technically one of the main advantages of working in a teamwork project. Our teamwork solution is kind of like you could interpret it as working in an O365 Microsoft Office, file like in Word interactively. And they have put together these models using the chat functions and using all the modeling tools that are available in ArchiCAD. And finally, just to add a design element into the picture, that is exactly why we had introduced. Do you see the model now on the screen? Let me know if
yes, we do.
Because I just switched. Okay, so because we wanted to introduce some sort of a more individual achievement, more design thinking level of element to the picture, that's why we have introduced these individual projects, which were technically to design little pavilion buildings in front of this is our headquarters, by the way, Graphisoft headquarters, and this is the Danube, and this is the riverside next to it. So that's the environment where you are in. It's just a little bit less detailed than this model. And their task was to model inspired by the architect of the architectural classic that they remodeled, to design little pavilions which are possible to assemble and deassemble and put into a normal van and be constructed in a different place. And then once every one of the team has submitted their own little project, we created this virtual exhibition for them, which was accessible for everyone, and their project presentations, regardless that they were actually from, I think, 4 continents altogether and from 13 countries. They were able to do their design presentations together like this. So, for example, this project was Leo's project from Germany. This one is Aldo's project from Mexico. This is Alina's from Russia, and so on and so on. And all of these projects, although having the same project descriptions, have created awesome, very unique little bits and pieces. So for example, this one, by the way, and I think Rhino's the presentation upcoming. So this was created with the Rhino Grasshopper connection, mainly modeled the Rhino, but added the building element parts in ArchiCAD and so on. So all of this, this little part of the competition and of the event made the whole process so much more interactive, so much more unique for the students. And by having a teamwork and a team collaboration component and having their own little design component that actually add up together to creating a creative environment and an engaging enough setup or framework for them to work together. And that's this is mainly what I wanted to talk about today. I think, yeah.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Yeah, we for sure are looking forward to more collaboration between the different modeling interface, including Graphisoft and McNeil and more. So thank you so much, Miko, for such an interesting display of student work. And we will leave the question to the roundtable. So, yep, let's move on to the next space. Thank you so much.
It's really interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you so much.
Let's jump to we have the portal just here.
Yep.
Really.
Cool. So speaking of Rhino, we are in the McNeil space from the Graphisoft exhibition.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you just fine. Now we're just waiting for... Oh, Alberto is here. Awesome. So seems like no one is stealing your internet anymore.
Hello.
Hi, yes.
Yeah, done. Perfect. Hi, guys. Luis, are you there? Yeah.
Yes, everyone is here.
Yeah. So here we arrange your slides in a circular way, so you can start from your back to your right. Yeah.
Yep. Do you want to introduce him?
Yes. I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, our next panelist is McNeil, represented by Luis Fraguada here. McNeil was founded in 1980s as a privately held employee owner company with development, sales support, and training offices. Much of their new software development focus on the use of AutoCAD drawings and related data. For more than 20 years, they focus on developing, publishing, and supporting Rhino and Grasshopper and related products for designers, engineers, fabricators, and their support staff. Luis Fraguada uses programming to collaborate with practitioners in diverse fields such as design, fashion, and gastronomy. Luis developed diverse interests and skills during his academic training as an architect and realized that the programming he was learning applying to generate novel building solutions could also serve to create new ways of working in other disciplines. Luis is currently a developer and third-party developer supporter at McNeil Europe, with a mission to help people to create great things with the APIs developing for Rhinoceros 3D and Grasshopper 3D. In addition to this role, Luis initiated and managed McNeil Europe participation in EU-funded research projects. So welcome, Luis, to this roundtable.
Thank you, everybody. I'm super excited to be taking part in this format in this roundtable. I've been to here East. I know some of your colleagues over there. So it's nice to be in this format. I'm happy to also speak in the same forum as as Graphisoft, as we have collaborated with them over the years, and they have this excellent ArchiCAD Grasshopper connection, which they were kind of like the first to try to the first in, let's say, in the big players to really bridge this gap, and sort of made us think a lot about how we offer Rhino and how we extend Rhino out beyond Rhino itself. So really cool to be in the same forum and with the other guests. So I mean, the first three slides I have here are as, let's say, markety as I get, and but of course what I want to do is obviously discuss the Rhino, but more so discuss a few projects where Rhino is used, and I think that tie into the theme, the Phygital and cyber. Digital, which I love the word Phygital because I mean my background is an architect. I actually did my master's at the Design Research Lab, the DRL, not so far from the UCL, a little farther from here east. But so I did work as an architect. I've built buildings before, but I think the word Phygital is so much more abstract and nice, I think, than, for example, BIM or digital twin. And so I do feel it gives us much flexibility. In any case, let me talk about Rhino really quick. Just as a background, if you don't know Rhino, it's originally a NURBS modeler. It was an important feature early on for like naval architects looking for an affordable way to create precise ship hulls. And today, Rhino includes tools for manipulating meshes, sub-Ds, point clouds, etc. And all this functionality was built with the same objective in mind, to provide efficient and precise 3D modeling platform. So that's how you start making like a pretty traditional desktop software. But of course, now a lot of things are moving kind of back, or moving away from the desktop. And so I think one of the important pieces is that with Rhino, with Grasshopper, you can really have this logic be anywhere. My work at McNeil EU involves projects related to how Rhino users can extend Rhino into other use cases and knowledge domains. And we've been working on giving users the tools they need to extend Rhino and even use Rhino in places where you can't install Rhino. So now, today, a Grasshopper definition can be, which is Grasshopper is our visual programming language, if you don't know. That you can use on the desktop, as you have been able to now for a decade or so. But you can also run that, make a command from it. You can make a plugin from it. You can run that and wrap it around a web service, so that can be accessed, on any device with a internet connection. So we're really, happy that now our users that have invested their time into Grasshopper can really have all sorts of different ways to do this. You can also use Rhino and Grasshopper inside of other applications or next to them, like in the Grasshopper ArchiCAD connection. And this is mostly enabled by our project Rhino Compute. And with Rhino Compute, any device, as I mentioned, with an internet connection can access core Rhino geometry calculations, and developers can bring this Rhino into XR experiences, onto the shop floor, into the construction site, etc. So this is a lot of the stuff I work with. It somehow has Rhino Compute involved. Now I want to move on quickly to a few other projects, and these are actually projects that that I've done. Mostly, actually, both of the projects that I'll present are in a collaboration with my partner Elizabeth Bigger, who is a technical costume expert and let's say fashion sustainability expert. So this is a project that we did, and it is actually as an NFT, so I'm not going to skirt around this topic, but yeah, this is what we call the Phygital shirt. And what, this is kind of a response to a lot of the things we saw in early in January and February, where, it was kind of a protest against what we were seeing as digital fashion. You'd have all sorts of platforms. You start to see new NFTs with digital fashion. And, a lot of these were starting to be minted on blockchains that are proof of work. And a lot of people are saying, digital fashion is sustainable because, you never actually get the the garment. The garment isn't produced, so it's not creating dye effluent waste, or it's not creating there's you don't have to work with the working conditions and low wages and everything. So it sidetracks all that. But at the same time, these, let's say, digital fashion projects were being minted on proof of work chains. I mean, it's if you want an analog to this, yes, buying CDs and tapes and using all that plastic wasn't great, but now our use of streaming platforms actually has a higher carbon footprint than producing any of those CDs or tapes ever did. So there's this sort of replacement of where the carbon footprint comes from, and replacing fashion with digital fashion, just to eventually have a higher carbon footprint because these are being minted on a proof of work blockchain, seemed to be to us kind of ridiculous. So what we wanted to do is create a Phygital shirt where not only would we create and mint this on a proof of stake blockchain, which is Tezos, but we'd also eventually create a workflow to produce this physically if you wanted. So this Phygital shirt, and I wish I would have had some videos because they're all nicely animated and walking around. The Phygital shirt was created in Rhino. We used, and we'll see later on how we kind of made this, but when you buy the NFT, you get the 3D model, this animated 3D model of the shirt, but you also get the pattern to produce it, and the pattern to produce it is in 6 sizes. But the idea is that you'd get this other NFT, which is a PDF. You'd get a PDF of each of the sizes. Then you'd have a conversation with somebody or maybe you could create this shirt yourself. The idea was to kind of create a conversation about making clothes for ourselves and returning to a more sustainable fashion consumption model, where we no longer depend on big brands to do this. Now you can't shift from global fashion market to a local fashion market without having a lot of people left behind. All of those people that make our clothes, we need to think about them as well. So this doesn't necessarily get into that, but it's part of the topics that we like to discuss, and are sort of actively working on. The shirt itself was modeled in Rhino and Grasshopper using another project that Elizabeth and I worked on, which is GenCloth. And here we have a parametric pattern database for all sorts of the standard patterns you'd be used to. And with Kangaroo, we're able to eventually fit this on a body and stitch it up, and eventually create the patterns from this, in case you wanted to then further customize it to be exactly your size, which is eventually what we like to do, is create fully customizable clothing. What I like about this, and another reason kind of we thought the name Phygital for the shirt was accurate, is that by adding these physics properties to objects and materials, you do kind of start to see where things fail. And sometimes things fail because the digital model isn't correct, but sometimes things fail because you're not representing something in the digital model, which we should be representing in the digital model, which you actually need to do in the physical model. So in this case, I think I hadn't properly stitched the sleeves in Rhino and Grasshopper and Kangaroo. So something they didn't collide properly, or the normals were wrong. So there are these digital properties that actually somehow have an analog in the physical world, which I think is interesting. Eventually, we exported this from Rhino into used Adobe's Mixamo to add a walk cycle. And here, it's not actually you don't have the material properties there. Probably would have been good to do this in a more animation software like Blender, or something that you can actually give or I guess in Kangaroo we could have done something similar, and have the shirt actually move around, given the material properties. So the Phygital shirt was released in March on a marketplace that's called Hicketnook. If you don't know it, it's an amazing marketplace. It's an amazing community, all open source, community run, let's say, attempts to be community governed in a way. Has definitely its share of quirks, but I definitely recommend it if you're looking to do NFTs in a clean manner on an open source blockchain and an open source platform, community run. Definitely check out Hicketnook. And they also support GLB files. They support all sorts of different things that you can mint, not just images and videos. So Let's move on here to the second and last project, which is another collaboration between Elizabeth and myself, which is our Augmented Senses Studio, which we did in 2019 at the Institute of Advanced Architecture in Catalonia. I actually have taught there for, I don't know, over 10 years. After I did my master's, I came to Barcelona and I started teaching there. And this was really, for me, kind of a really great experience with Elizabeth, because I think we finally did a studio that we thought that we not only pedagogically structured nicely, but we also had some results that were just amazing. It's like the studio that we'd always wanted to do. Elizabeth and I work with wearable technology, and we've won international awards on this, but now we wanted to try to do this with students. So the idea here, and again, why I think this is interesting for the context of the roundtable, is I think this is maybe more in the cyber-phygital realm, where what we tried to do here is to expand the senses that humans have access to beyond what we're originally born with, to have new senses. And so we have some examples here. For example, Sudain developed a sense of let's say light quality, if you want. So he created a headgear that has fiber optic cables that feed into the back of the back of his head, which eventually actuates several vibration motors around his neck, so he can understand the quality of light, the color, and several other properties through this sort of translation between the light and the haptic feedback. Christine did a similar, she used similar technology, but for a different purpose. So this is her chakra suit. So she actually is listening to frequencies in the ambient sound frequencies. And then there's haptic feedback around her back and different chakra points. And what I love about this project is that it's like a spiritual project, so it's not just merely technical, but it's trying to explore spirituality in a way. She wasn't necessarily somebody who knew about chakra and Buddhism and these kinds of things, but she wanted to explore that not just by reading text and practicing meditation, but she wanted to explore it in a technical with technology. So there's a microphone that eventually translates those ambient sound frequencies into the different chakra points. Let's say the third project I'll explain here is Doruk's project, which is essentially sensing the ambient electromagnetism around us. And this is why I love this picture of him next to this vacuum. Nobody gets this picture, but I guess if you were able to see the electromagnetic field that a vacuum emits, it's very potent, and it's huge. So you can feel all sorts of waves if you get closer to trees or cars, or if you're in different environments. And so what he created is a way with these metallic pads on his vest. Eventually, those translate to he gets essentially shocked and by all of these little pads around his waist. He gets little shocks depending on the intensity and the quality of the electromagnetic field signal that he's detecting. And in the project, we're not only trying to let's say bridge the cyber-physical gap by adding new senses, but we also were kind of going in and out of the digital realm. So at each phase of the project, we can do body scans with the prototypes, so that they could also do VR, understand what they look like, and understand what they feel like, and different. Of course, connecting these things to graphics, to Raspberry Pis, to cameras, to sensors, doing 3D printing. But I think for us, some of the most exciting prototypes were eventually in the later phases, when we're starting then. Like how this thing eventually connects to your body. We bring in sewing machines to the studio, sketches on top of them, trying to produce the garments, and eventually also do prototyping of PCB boards. Eventually, when the projects get more mature and there's we discover a need to condense all of the wiring and everything to a more simple interface. The last project here Yimeng's project, which actually we show because it won an international award at the International Symposium of Wearable Computers. And essentially here he combines a infrared sensor and a now the word is escaping, but the sensor that detects the the conductivity of your skin together. And all of these papers, we're not inventing the sensor methodologies. These are all methodologies that have been presented before in like ACM conference and again at the International Symposium of Wearable Computers. But essentially, there was several papers that discussed the combination of infrared thermal sensors and skin conductance sensors to determine a valence of mood, so positive, negative, or neutral. And so this eventually allowed him to sense this, and he would feel this in his stomach with let's say there's thermal wires that eventually would heat up or cool down based on that. And there's on this armature, he would also provide feedback for people to understand what he was feeling. So yeah, these are the projects I thought would maybe fit with the context. Of course, behind this is Rhino, behind this is Grasshopper, and a lot of other technologies. Yeah, looking forward to the Q&A.
Thank you very much
you
for
so
the
much.
presentation.
Yeah.
Really, really inspiring. Yeah, quite diverse.
Super awesome. And
Amazing,
real
amazing
digital
stuff.
systems.
Congrats.
Yeah, I actually came up with quite a few questions because you went all the way from blockchain, distributed networks to like this biofeedback sensors, which is super interesting. But before that, let us move on to our next panelist. So thank you so much, Luis.
Thank you.
Cool.
As follow provides to the next screen. There. If you press shift, you can fly in a faster way.
Yeah, it's actually amazing to fly through this landscape and to be able to see like, we're on a helicopter or something.
Yes.
Cool. So if you hover your cursor on top, you'll be able to jump to the next space. Cool.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm Valentina. Sarah. I'm teaching at the Bartlett.
Yes.
And I'm also a researcher using robotics. Shall I? Do you want to?
Yeah, I will introduce you. Yep. I think I sort of mixed up the. Yeah, okay, cool. So Valentina Soana is a research associate and doctoral candidate at the UCL Computer Science Department and a member of the Autonomous Manufacturing Lab, AML. Valentina is currently a PhD researcher in soft robotics, UCL Mechanical Engineering. She's also a lecturer at the Bartlett School of Architecture, UCL. So previously, she was also has assisted in the Institute for Computational Design ICD at Stuttgart, and her research Cluster 2 at the Bartlett BPRO program investigates robotic architecture. In particular, it explores the emerging design possibilities of autonomous systems and investigates the role of robotics in architecture beyond the use in fabrication and construction tools, moving towards a novel concept of architectural robots. So Valentina is currently also the module coordinator for the Creative Complexity Digital Studio. So thank you for coming today, and the stage is yours.
Great, thank you so much. I think I would just share my screen. Right. So. Okay. Cool. Could you see my screen?
Yes, awesome.
Oh,
yes.
No, sorry. This is not meant to play.
I'm so, yeah, here.
Hi.
Yeah,
okay.
Here. Yeah. Hi, Valentina.
Can you see my screen?
Right now, no.
No.
No, I think you have to share again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can try again. Yeah. Maybe outside the slide outside the structure.
Awesome. Yes, now we see it.
We can see now.
Just trying to put in presenter mode.
It's there.
Is there?
It's
Is there?
It's there. Yeah, there. Yes,
All
we
right.
can see it.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for the invite and for the introduction. As Provide mentioned, I am at the intersection of the Bartlett. I'm a researcher and academics at the intersection of Bartlett School of Architecture and UCI Robotics. I was in the last 3 years in the Department of Computer Science, and now I moved to Mechanical Engineering, where I am part of the Soft Optics and Robotics Lab. I have a very interdisciplinary sort of background. I was trained as an architect originally, and then with further studies and experience, I moved towards robotics. I've been kind of like a semi-smooth journey. So as I said, as I started working as a computational designer in different firms such as Asymptotes back in the days. And then I was at the ICD at GKE, where I did both my second master and I also work as a research assistant on several projects. And that's where I started developing my interest in robotic and material system. In the last 3 years, I was as I say, I used robotics, both in computer science. I was part of the AML lab, and now I am in the soft optics and robotics lab, working on several projects, mostly trying to merge the architecture, art, and robotics in some sort of like crazy projects. And this is just an overview of the projects I did develop and supervised in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years. I mean, they all had a very different context and aim and goals, but the underlying principle is to really create what I call robotic material systems. So robotic system that works with the material and with the structural system in order to enable specific behavior at architectural scale. So moving from self-assembly to self-forming and reconfiguring structure. I'm currently both leading 2 research clusters, both in the AD and AC program at the Bartlett B-Pro. And this is just an overview of some of the projects that I just mentioned that were developed in the last 5 years. And I mean, the conceptual background of the work, especially in the Bartlett School of Architecture, is really this idea of like challenging the notion of robotics and the role of robotics in the discipline just as a tools, and start questioning, what can be really the relevance of the systems if they become part of the structure itself. Obviously, some of the ideas and the ambitions about multidisciplinary approaches or spatial structures that could be inhabitable and dynamic is not new. It started conceptually from the work and the debate starting in the 60s that really was looking at novel ways of creating architectural systems that are not just like stable, static, but really questioning what can we do with mobile, dynamic, playful, and provocative spatial systems. And obviously, so I'm obviously inspired a lot of some of those conversations, but also my research is very specific because it tried to combine specific material and structural behavior with current robotic solutions to create structures that are not just dynamic, but also smart and can enable multiple behavior with minimum amount of actuation. As a background, so my main research is mostly on elastic and structure, but also in the last years, this was one of the projects I supervised when I was at Nursery 3, actually. We were looking at modular robotic structure, and the other side of my research and the research with students is looking at what they call elastic robotic structure. So just to provide a bit of an overview of modular system we develop, we always start with this, idea to challenge the conventional workflow and separation between the design, the construction, and the operation of the building, and start to think what does it happen if the robotic system become part. Given my interest and background, I'm mostly very excited about like building the physical system and let architectural students really understand what it means to what it means to design a robotic system that work with your material or with your design. Those are just some examples. I mean, also a little bit to make a comment, because I saw that some of other speakers touched the discussion about remote working. I mean, all these projects were done remotely. So students we were doing robots from our living room, me included, because everything during lockdown, and it was really amazing to create like this sort of remote, like digital physical lab where students could like build robots in China and we could operate from, London or wherever we were. And yeah, those are just some of the examples of the work in the last 2 years. But as I say, mostly like my personal research has been on the development of what I call elastic robotic structure, with what I call a novel dynamic system that operates at human scale, and is mostly looking at the achieve dynamic system leveraging elastic properties of the material, more specifically of what is called bending accidents, a hybrid structural system where the form and the structural performance emerge from the negotiation collaboration between bending and tensile systems. But generally, I mean, independent, a little bit agnostic from the material robotic system, I think one thing that was common of all these projects really to start switching the mindset from the conventional separation between the space where we design and the space where we build. Also extending for, if you need to design something that operates over time, you need to extend and change completely the design approach, because you're not just designing for something that is going to be built and you walk away, but you need to think about the implication of what does it mean to have a real-time continuous design process. And so through different projects, I mean, as you see, there is a kind of variety of material systems, but we develop a sort of like approach where you need to start thinking about it in design for multiple states. So it's very different. You're not just designing for one state, you're designing for something change over time. And then this, what we call the material actuation system, get translated into a physical system. And then also the main design task becomes not just design a final product, but design the behavior. And so you need to really think about the part that excites me more is what I call the cyber-physical decision making, where you just basically create a framework that can continuously generate control values based on exchange between digital and physical information. So just to give a little bit of a general background of what I call elastic robotic structure, is this system that try to merge. I mean, the objective is to achieve adaptive dynamic system that relies on elastic deformations. And so I'm trying to mix the current research or previous and current research on lightweight elastic structure with robotics, because one of the main challenges of the system, I mean, they have an extremely advantages such as you can achieve large deformation with minimum amount of actuation, because you basically leverage material property, but at the same time they're extremely difficult to control because they are subject to external disturbances, and so it's very hard to predict. I mean, even if you have the best simulation environment, you can't predict the behavior because they are just subject to any disturbance. And so by combining a solution in robotics, which in robotics is like given for granted that you are basically designing for a dynamic system, which is different in architecture because you also always think about just designing a static. So by combining these two approaches into one, we developed very different elastic structure. I mean, each project, this is a mix of my personal projects, some of my students' projects. This is that really we start looking at different material actuation principle, at different type of behaviors, and also start thinking about how the system could interact and develop some larger vision of how this moving system could start inhabit and create some spatial performances. So this is just an overview. I mean, the first three projects were the three projects I developed. I mean, subchoreographic network was developed while I was at the University of Stuttgart with my colleague Matthias Meyerhofer. Elabot was developed at UCL and Elabot as well. While I was at the computer science, and these three projects are what three projects from last year, RC2, were basically that started with the unit and they extended into more speculative. But so regarding the approach, something that's really important for us is like, you know, to have a proper physics-based modeling environment where we can model and design, with material properties and material behavior, because so moving from conventional computational and geometrical approaches that don't take into account forces for us is very important to have that environment, also translate this into physical prototypes and like those are, some physical prototypes that this is, and also, you know, big part of what we do, what we did at RC2, there's also some examples, really like creating cyber-physical control system and exchange of data between different environments, so that while the system operates, there is a digital twin that can both rebuild and monitor and make decision making. So we've been developed. So we don't just design system; we also build interfaces that enable the designer, user to understand what happened in the system, to interact with the system, and to basically, foster different type of behaviors. We also been looking at, you know, how can we make those behaviors learn over time and optimize themselves to respond to different internal structural but also external behaviors. And mostly a big part, especially we've been exploring in the last, frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you just fine.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I think, oh no. Okay, so am I sharing again?
Yes, you are.
Okay, that's great. Sorry, I would just like my computer just my PowerPoint just. So anyway, I don't know what you see because at one point you saw last because at one point my screen froze, but all what I wanted to show through these different like approaches is really that we are interested not just on the design of final, but mostly in the design of a behavior. And through the year we have to develop in 3 different projects custom tools that could enable this system to operate. This was the first elastic robotic structure that, as I mentioned before, was developed at this ICD at TKE with Matthias Meyerhofer, and was the first project that kind of like set up the conceptual background on how you can operate a self-forming structure that leverage elastic properties, and then, you know, raising the first questions of how can you enable a system that can operate through this negotiation between human design, material, machine parameters. The second project is Elabot, which I did when I joined first UCL at the Autonomous Manufacturing Lab, and here was just introducing also like surface and develop completely new control system, also creating this pipeline between Kangaroo, Unity, and ROS, which is the robotic environment where I control the robots. This was Elabody, the project that was done committed by the Venice Biennale, and here was the question was really like to start exploring a different type of dynamic system, and also in relation with the human body, and how could we start informing certain behaviors based on the human body, and having this negotiation between robotic deformation and human movement. This is loops, which is another project that was developed RC2 by my students Ling Jae, Yiting Ma, Ishishi, and Tong Yao Lin. They took Elabot as a unit and they started exploring larger structure and think about what the system could do. We also were very excited about creating like a crawling architectural robotic module. And so with the same kind of actuation principle, Elabot, we were able to create this crawling robot, envisioning what does it mean if one point our architecture becomes so mobile that its part is able to follow us and start like, meeting other kind of architectural robot and self-form structure. And the last part I want to show is elastic choreographies, which extend the work done for the Biennale and really looking at how these systems can, you can start designing the performance almost as a choreography. And again, we had this, where the final result is always this negotiation between structural performance, design ambition, and external parameters. Thank you. That's me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, super interesting. I mean, coming from Louis' Phygital exploration to the cyber-physical system, I think for sure there will be a lot of disciplinary discussion in the roundtable. Thank you so much. So we have our last two guests, and for that we must... Alberto, you sound like a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that we must... For that, we must move on to the next room. Thank you so much. Nikolai, your avatar is just here.
Yes, it's kind of surreal because I see myself.
Yeah, if you hover your cursor on top and then you press use avatar and you'll be able to swap into.
Excellent.
Yep.
Let's see if it works. Sorry,
awesome.
Everyone, there's always a boomer-like person in this, and I think this is me.
You're looking like you, which is great. And...
Yeah. Well, for some reason I can't access it, but I wonder if I just stand next to it. Is that okay? Hold on 1 second.
No, you're looking like you already.
Yeah.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, you swap into it already. Yep, cool.
Okay, great. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Awesome. So hi everyone.
I will introduce you.
Late.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Oh, great.
Cool. Yeah, so the next panelist is from Strelka Institute for Media Architecture and Design, which was actually founded in 2009, with a mission to change physical and cultural landscape of Russian cities. So the Institute promotes positive changes and creates new ideas through its educational activities. And more than a decade ago, the first of its think tank programs was actually directed by architect Rem Koolhaas. And today we're accompanied by the co-director of Strelka Institute's postgraduate program, Nikolai Boyadachev. Sorry, I practiced that. Who is an architect, curator, and editor working at the crossroads of strategic design and platform urbanism. So in 2020, he co-authored the book The New Normal, a comprehensive record of the projects, process, and provocations at Strelka, which set out to prototype new models for urban design practice at the intersection of software, cinema, strategy, and planning. So prior to joining Strelka, he also worked as an architectural designer, researcher, and strategist at internationally renowned studios, ranging from the boutique consultancy to larger architecture firms. So the stage is yours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Provides, and thank you, everyone. Let me just see if I can share my screen.
Yep.
1 second.
Yeah.
So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
So once again, thanks Provides for the introduction, and thank you everyone for. Like I said, I missed a little bit of the beginning, but I did catch the last 3 to 4 presentations, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I hope this won't be too much of a left turn away from what everyone has been discussing so far, but I thought that in the context of this conversation, I could talk about the Phygital or our, let's say, our use of this concept or interpretation of this concept less in the design of the outcomes of a particular program, but really in the process itself. As Provides mentioned, I co-run the Terraforming, which is a design research program at Stroke, and we have been using this notion of the Phygital or the digital twin in the kind of institutional design itself of our education platform, in a way that basically we're trying to create not only a different type of projects, but a different type of education process that is conducive to the type of work that we would like to see more. So today I wanted to basically share a little bit of that, and to do this, I guess I would probably talk about it in the context of our latest program, which is called the Terraforming, which, again, long story short, it's much less to do with particular. It's a research program. It's basically a research philosophy writing program that tries to look at the set of design less in the space of the solution, but more about the reframing of the context in which we are framing the problem. And the two goals are basically to come up with different frameworks, in particular in this context on environmental design, but more importantly also to prototype a different type of typology of projects, which are basically at this intersection of the researchers that we invite, which are really a minority of them comes from the space of design. In other words, what kind of projects could architects and designers do with different types of professionals, such as lawyers, sociologists, etc. So it's not simply the designers do the design and the sociologists write about it, but really what do these projects look like if they don't look like typical design projects. And since 2020, basically since the pandemic, we've been kind of forced to obviously operate across the world. I mean, this is a distribution of the time zones that we were based in, and all of the work that you're about to see was really produced in this context where we both in principle but in practice had to operate across this kind of phygital landscape of we are physically embodied somewhere, but needed to operate across these zones, and therefore the institution itself has to evolve to accommodate this. So Stroke, I mean, I don't know if many of you know of the institute or of the type of institutional DNA that it implies, but really it's very much not a school, and it's also not really an art residency or an accelerator, but it really is an institute that focuses on media. And media in a sense that both architecture and design could be seen as subsets of media, or depending on how you wish to see this, designers and architects don't necessarily produce buildings, but they produce media about this production, whether it's in the form of construction drawings, whether it's in the form of presentations, whether it's in the form of landscape sketches, of napkin sketches or narratives. It implies essentially grasping this kind of notion of how does media operate, especially in this kind of digital landscape. We wrote an entire book about it. I don't want to talk too much about this, but essentially the notion that I wanted to kind of introduce this with is to think about our program as a think tank, which looks at this range of familiar topics in very unfamiliar ways from the point of view of research. And how could it include, or how could it integrate different technologies, and how could it integrate the Phygital in its process, basically less in its outcomes, but really in its process. So to explain this, I guess speaking about our idiosyncratic take on design education, we really try to flip the relationship around. Like I said, this is not a school. It's probably closer to a job, although probably more interesting, less lucrative job opportunity. But it really isn't about teaching design to students. Typically, you may think that we are, or more traditional schools, I guess, that provide education as a service would have to have some sort of education framework that essentially allows to produce design outcomes. But we've been really trying to kind of flip this relationship around, where our design project as an institution is to redesign ourselves constantly. So the design of the framework is the ongoing design project. Hence, how we use this hybridization of digital and physical in the program, which I'm about to show, and think of the outcomes less as design outcomes, but more as education outcomes that are meant for more broadcasting, media consumption. So really, the emphasis is that our education program, which is, it's a building, it's a narrative, it's an archive. This becomes the design project. It's really an institutional design project that has to leverage both the physical and digital. And the way that we do this is basically produce a very concrete, let's say, structure, which implies, I think, truly interdisciplinary group of people, which really come from where there is a big challenge for them to actually operate as a unit, because they really don't speak the same language at all. It's not just architects and designers working with technologists. It's actually, what does a lawyer, biologist, philosopher, and an architect do together? So that challenge, it's very, very short and cyclical, which means that we can actually update a little bit like software updates, change our program yearly by learning from the feedback. And as I mentioned, it's not only is it free, but we actually pay the students with a small stipend. And this notion of thinking of ourselves as a platform really means, what does it actually imply to take this seriously? If you think of social media platforms and how they operate, they operate and they're successful because they produce two different types of surplus, right? They make it, taking the example of just Twitter or Facebook, they produce a type of user surplus, which makes the existing information more valuable for its users. As Facebook users, we use Facebook because it creates a certain surplus, which makes our information and our content more valuable to us. But ultimately, it also operates on the generation of a platform surplus, which means that it could create new information, which is useful for it. In the case of Facebook, that's great disparity. But in the case of us, as Strelka, what are these different types of surpluses that we could be producing through this kind of leveraging of the digital technologies that are available to us as an education institute? In other words, it's not just producing projects and putting it on a website. It's what does it actually mean to be working across these spaces, and what kind of information is made more valuable for the students, for the users, versus what kind of information could be more useful for us as a kind of an institution that has to leverage its content production and produce different types of media from it. So, as Provides mentioned, I'm an architect by training. I worked for the bigger part of my career in very sort of what I would call premium mediocre architecture design, like good, clean corporate architecture. But the reason why I mentioned this is that I thought it was actually a very interesting relationship as a practitioner. Working on this very, very large building in Montreal. This used to be the largest construction site in North America at one point, which is the project that I was involved with for over 7 years. It was a mega hospital. It was a huge hospital, which basically had this really intricate Revit model, really interesting kind of digital twin in the true sense of the word, I think, because it was also a model that helped us to, coordinate a building of this size, but the model itself also had a legal function, because as a P3 project, we basically had to provide or assure that we had planned for every single thing that we were contractually obligated to provide and pay for, and therefore there was this really interesting relationship between meat space, this building that we were seeing being constructed, this gigantic something that you kind of see from the plane as you land in Montreal, and this kind of nurturing of this model. I really remember it in a sense of we were really tending to this model in a way that really required a type of attention, like a small child, making sure that things were synchronized, making sure that things were up to date as changes on the sites were happening, and so on. And there was this really interesting relationship between the model and the building that obviously at the time, and I guess still today, goes one direction, the model for the building, But we can imagine in a very near future, it could go in the other direction. In other words, if a door breaks in the hospital, it's only a matter of time until we have not only the technology, but also the obligation in some projects to keep the model up to date and to create a kind of Internet of Things relationship between the model and the building. And when I arrived at Strelka, and first as a researcher, and then eventually as sort of co-leading and co-directing the program, I try to think about the same relationship. What is this kind of relationship between the process in meat space of the program and the kind of model in the virtual space? What is the archiving? What is the relationship between this, not so much from a project to project basis, but from the program as a project perspective? And hence this notion of the platform, design of this education platform kind of taking hold. Our program, like I said, is very multidisciplinary. It's very international. It's very challenging to kind of make sure that we produce things and projects that are, collaborative, but also higher than the lowest common denominator of what a very different type of individual could agree on. So we have this group that is kind of paired with this curated yearly faculty and speaker roster that basically allows us, because we have no permanent faculty, we basically designed each cycle. Here's our researchers and here's our faculty and how they can interact together. And we operate across a range of different platforms. I don't know if you can see this animation, which I see on my screen. But essentially, the program operates in a way where we organize and create different small teams, different small units based on the different brief from a different faculty. And across basically over half of our program, we try to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to work with as many people as possible. In other words, we create these permutations, which are meant to basically break down any sense of individual authorship and really basically prototype the collaborations that would be conducive to work that could emerge from the think tank. We basically use different platforms to archive individual interests, collective outputs, but also keeping track of the relationships that worked. In a way, it sounds a bit scary, but this has been incredibly useful for us as almost like a live digital twin of the program to keep track of everything in order to make the final project teams, which are made by us, which are very, I think, in Russian tradition, maybe a bit more top-down. Than in other cases, because we make the groups, but also really to keep track of an incredibly large body of work that happens in a very, very short amount of time. Because we have these different short projects, and we change the team each time based on the faculty, we produce basically over 100 and 120, let's say, shorter projects, shorter charrettes, shorter outcomes that are meant, again, to down any sense of kind of individual authorship, as in, like, here's my concept, here's your concept, but really kind of creating through this tending of this archive, I think a very large, cumulative body of ideas, which is archived both in this platform, which is also archived into Notion. It's archived into a range of different tools, which we don't really necessarily have a preference over. But the idea really is to kind of create the pool of ideas, which has been detached from individuals in order to basically create a collective outreach, where perhaps earlier in the last few weeks, an idea came across which none of the people involved in the final team necessarily were the authors, but makes sense for them to integrate within their final projects. Which leads me to this kind of just second half of the idea here, to think of the outcomes themselves as this kind of media projects designed for broadcasting that are meant to navigate this space across Institute where they're presented, but also across a range of different forums. And really, we think of the projects themselves as little portals into a larger body of ideas, like like in a think tank themselves. So it's less individual projects or individual students working on their own personal projects and graduating from them. But really, basically, there's a manifesto of sorts for each kind of program cycle that we start, and we basically try to create different versions of the idea based on a different starting point or point of focus. So far, in the last 2 years, we've created about 18 projects, and these projects exist across a range of what we call elastic outcomes. Sort of need-based, where the project doesn't really live in one shape, but is basically a concept that basically is a bit like a strategic output. Because of the process, the notion that this is an editorial project that kind of constitutes or lives off across different outputs is kind of the point. We also try to extend these outcomes across different platforms that we have. But really the main point here is that what we try to do is we try to create a digital archiving and digital working infrastructure that complements the physical process of being a researcher in our program, both in person and online, depending on the time of the 5-month process. We obviously, like I mentioned, the program is free and paid, and we have a series of different field trips where the researchers come together and sort of meet in order to create this kind of collective body of work, which very much like to use an analogy of the Marvel franchise. Researchers across 3 years, different groups of people produce different standalone outputs, right? Which are a bit like the Marvel films, all self-contained stories, self-contained plots, self-contained heroes on. But really, collectively, the real project that the Marvel franchise is working on is the shared universe. That is the product of these films, whether it's the Iron Man movie or the Hulk, the Green Hulk Lego set, or the Spider-Man video game. All of these contribute to one project, which is this kind of shared universe. And again, given the fact that we think of the platform itself as a project, we're trying to create a shared universe of ideas where one project sort of opens up the portal to the others. And by basically learning about one of them, you have the opportunity of expanding your knowledge of all the others. Hence, again, like I said, leveraging the tools at our disposal to really rethink what does an education program look like? What does a multidisciplinary design program look like in the 21st century? It may not necessarily be in the formats sort of inherited Beaux-Arts formats of like one student working on one thesis for a very long period of time. Basically, the point here as well is like the shared universe. It's less to kind of respond to an audience, but to create an audience. That is really the kind of the purpose of our project, to leverage the tools at our disposal to create the audience through the project. If a lawyer, an architect, and an artist work together on a project, they are co-creating the audience of their peers, who then are brought together in a space to meet and discuss the points of convergence. And just to conclude, while we all kind of agree that multidisciplinary collaboration is very, very important in principle, in practice, we found in our research that very few institutions are actually, including ours, being very, very in early days, we're actually trying to actively develop frameworks for this type of education to be sustained, kind of short-term intensive education to be sustained. So the question for us has been like, how do we then leverage this kind of phygital context of using the fact that we exist in this kind of hybrid space, using the fact that archiving content has been never been easier, but also hasn't been kind of thought through creatively. What does that mean basically for different types of education programs and different types of cultural production? So I think I'll stop here. But essentially, I find that what everyone is presenting really interesting, because while we use all the tools that are presented, we've tried to take on the institutional design project with the same passion that I think some of your projects really sort of made clear. So with that, I think I'll just leave it here. But thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure, for a refreshing and larger scale accidental megastructure type of view towards the phygital and the cyber-physical. So thank you so much for bringing that input in to this roundtable. Cool. So we have our last guest before we move on to the roundtable.
The last one.
Yes, and for that,
Yes, follow
please.
me here in the corner here.
The portal is this way? Are they moving? Yeah. Hi, Diego. Okay. Diego? Diego? Diego, your VR space is right there. Yeah, you have to come over here. Are you speaking? Because I can't hear you. You have to come here and teleport. Yeah, cool.
Hello to everyone.
Yep, we're just waiting for Alberto. He will be introducing our next panelist from University of Chile. So, let's see.
Yeah, we are waiting to Alberto and Diego.
Yeah. I asked Diego to move through the portal. I'm not sure if he understood me or he was muted or something. Cool. Oh, cool. He is here.
Where's Alberto?
Hi.
I can see you,
Hi.
Alberto.
Yes, I'm here. Yes. I'm fighting against the digital robbers.
I don't know.
Stealing my
I don't know
internet connection.
Diego, I don't know if Diego understand
Maybe you can send the link from the browser, that link to Diego directly. Copy paste, just super easy.
But he was able to enter the previous room, so.
Yeah, but you can send it with the same link with the one that we have now in the browser.
Okay.
And it's going to arrive directly here. It can arrive just here instead of the Streka link.
I'm sending the link.
Perfect. So let's wait a little bit. Well, meanwhile, this is an ArchiCAD model translated to this web VR.
It looks pretty well.
Yeah, it looks pretty well. Yeah. So we have the stair there. Yeah. Indeed. We can go later if you want. So are you going to share your screen, Camilo?
Yeah, but well, it's the same thing that you can see on the slide, but I think it's better than I share because it's a very typical presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So we can go.
I'm going to share, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm trying to explain Diego how to enter, but he has problem, I think.
Oh, okay. So I'm not sure. It's up to you. You can tell me.
There are. He's entered. He's entered now.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So you can.
Okay. Perfect. Let's wait.
And then I share my my screen.
Perfect. So Diego is walking inside. It's now here.
I don't know where it is.
Yeah, not yet.
Just 1 minute.
In 1 minute more. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, in any case, this setup wasn't really complicated because it was just in the limit of the capacity of the Mozilla hubs to host these kind of models. Yeah. Provides our limit is 120 something. Yeah.
100
megabytes.
Yes.
Yeah, 100 megabytes. Yes.
For the entire scene.
For the entire scene. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now Diego is in the room, but I didn't see.
Yeah, but
I think he might be having an internet problem. That's why he keeps going in and out.
Well, the model than we are is a model of our students. So
yes, yeah,
it's looking very well.
You can walk inside the building without problems. It's coming with furniture, with other things. Well, may I present us? Okay. Yes, and then Diego can join us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. University of Chile, Studio 6, the technological integration. Yeah. University of Chile, Faculty of Architecture and Urbanism, was founded by the year 1849, with more than 170 years of tradition, teaching to the new generation of architects in Chile with a strong connection with public buildings, social housing, and urban planning. Actually, leading beam teaching in this country. Studio 6 develops an open beam agenda in which the students are developing their own young careers based on the use of technologies on different scales and formats, empowering them to be highly creative using digital modeling and BIM during the whole process. Camilo Guerrero is an architect from University of Chile and Master of Digital Architecture from International University of Catalonia, and Professor of Studio 6 together with Diego Rosell, as well architect from University of Chile and a Master of Architecture from AADRL. Both are leading the design and project development with the use of ArchiCAD and Rhino as main platforms, working with the students creating housing proposals in different formats and locations. So, well, Camilo and Diego, it's up to you now.
Well, thank you, Alberto. Well, first half, I want to thank to Alberto and Bartlett UCL for this invitation. It's really early here in Chile, but we are happy and I enjoy very much the other presentations. This is a presentation much more traditional. It's like a regular studio design studio, and the thing is how we face this studio in this context, in this pandemic context, is a technological integration studio. So we are a little bit forced to integrate technology in this course, but it's a very short-term studio. So we only have 12 weeks to develop a project with the students, and the model than we are now is one of the results of this studio. So I'm going to share a screen here. I'm going to try to show you the same presentation than we have in the slides. I don't know if you can see the presentation.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you make it bigger?
Maybe Prabhat, can you help Camilo to resize the screen?
How you change the size? This is this.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, the studio, like I said, the Studio 6 is it's an undergraduate studio, third year of the architecture career in the University of Chile, and we have a challenge with Diego to put the students in a conflict with technology. Most of them has no experience using BIM building information models in the previous steps in their careers. So we take students with almost non-knowledge or previous knowledge about it, and we have to develop a studio in 12 weeks. And well, that you can read this, the digital, we can afford, or our challenge is to integrate digital methodologies and take profit of the opportunity that this pandemic context give to us. So we try to create a new point of view of this technological methodology, and we introduce the BIM workflow in this course. So it's a very regular studio, but with a new point of view. And the interesting thing that we integrate the teamworks and the BIM cloud in the process. So I don't know if Diego.
Diego is here now. I think. Diego, are you here?
Yes, here I am.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, join us, please.
I'm a bit lost in space yet, but
it's like a video game.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, I'm lost. I'm not sure if you are seeing what I'm seeing, and which slide are we in?
It's the first one, just the first one.
Yeah, I am in the first one. The presentation is in the middle of all of the slides. Well, I'm going to step forward. This is the presentation of the studio. Well, we are two professors, Diego and me. We have an assistant, is Ricardo Villarroel, and two structures. We divide the studio in 3 days, and we have 2 days for like architectural discussion, and 1 day for learning, software learning, like no more than that. And it's kind of new in the university, because all the studios have only 2 days in the afternoons, and we have 3. So it's new for the students, and it's new for us. And this is our team. We have please, Diego, if you want to interrupt me, you can do it wherever you want.
Sure.
We have 2 agendas.
Yeah.
You can see it?
Exactly. Sorry.
Okay. Perfect.
The course is structured in 3 days or 3 afternoons. 2 of them are on this disciplinary agenda in terms of the architect objective that we need to achieve, and those are 2 afternoons. Then there's a third one just specialized in the training of the use of the software and digital literacy. We understand the integration of both by the usage of BIM workflow. As Camilo was pointing out, our students are third-year students, and they have no previous BIM. Have been using, most of them just kind of grasp a little bit of Rhino, but no more than that. So the challenge was quite high. We wanted where they could extract everything from it, and also comply, of course, with the disciplinary agenda we are trying to push forward. So we are, in the next slide, please. cost density. We've been working for several years in the problem of the density in the city, which is in Santiago. I don't know if it's a problem or not, but it has been a bit deregulated. Part that is the manifestation of, if you go to, you can see the fifth slide, I think it's over. Yes. Those maps are showing a little bit on the left-hand side. You can see the areas of Santiago that, I mean, that have had a recent explosive growth in real estate development, particularly in the residential buildings. And on the right-hand side, you can see it has the same issue, but it's the wealthier parts of Santiago, which also have or concentrate most of the equipment and services of the city. So, like the market sort of is leading the way, but the planning of the city in the regard of how is the services are distributed, it's not working very well. So we raised the question to our students. I mean, they also have certain, I would say, regards towards working with density because it's not very fashionable, let's say, among students. But I would push that because it's an agenda that we believe must be tackled, of course, within the architecture schools, and because it's spreading out, and they do not have necessarily the tools to face that in the real world later on. So one of the questions we were raising was how do we make, or how to create city, or how do we be part of this in the densifying context, how the academy is responding to this phenomenon, and if the academy is training professionals with the skills to face those challenges, apart from the political realm. And
well,
then there's the question of the tools, like we, from the professional point of view, also we see that these are complex projects that are very dense, very high. Many people live in there, but they do not have the tools necessarily to really tackle or face those problems in a more holistic manner. So, can you sort of?
Yeah, no, it's. I want to say that this inequality that you can see in these pictures is typical of the Latin American cities, but in Santiago is worst. All the equipment of the city is in the three district that you can see in the right side. So all the sports, the recreational, the green areas, health equipment, education equipment, I don't know, leisure equipment, it's all in these three big district, the rich district of the city, but the real estate business is working in the other ones, in the district that you can see in the left side. So there are a lot of new housing in this district, but there are not equipment associated to these new projects. So the challenge that we put to the students is just this. It's like create equipment for this population that is arriving to this new district with the real high activity of real estate business. So the three aspect that you can see in the bottom, that is, of course, is an inevitable manifestation of the contemporary metropolis, but it's a responsibility for us to prepare to our students to face this reality in Santiago, especially, and in the other cities, it happens too. So, and of course, it's a source of work for these students, and we, like a public university, we have to, of course, we have to face the students to this reality. So it's part of the concrete, space here in Santiago. So are like the principal questions of the course. Is like that, like Diego said before, like and we put this question in front of the students, like this is the challenge. how do we make a city in this densifying context? A lot of housing, but not equipment at all. How are we responding to this phenomenon, like a teachers, and if we can see around us if the academy is training professional with the skills to face these challenges. We are not sure if every universities in Chile are preparing the students to this kind of reality. They don't have the skills to front this. It's like this kind of densification. And for the other side, in the right side, we have the real estate development. Left aside the equipment, of course, they're occupied in housing majorly, but it's not working in the equipment. They're not equipment associated to this new housing reality, and the regulatory instruments are not do the work. So they're not executions to the real estate business to create equipment to I don't know, complement the housing project. So the consequence of this discompensation between housing and equipment is the principal topic that we view in the studio. Diego? Okay, this is the principal question, that are we using the right design tools to meet the challenge? That this is the central question in the studio. So how we face that? Well, we're using in this context, in this pandemic context, we use BIM models with Archicad. We're working with Graphisoft Chile to teach the students to how to work in teams. We have a lot of students of different parts of Chile. Chile, you can see Chile in the map, is a very, very long country. We have an extreme north with different climates, and we have a huge distance between the students in this context because they are in these houses now. So this is a huge advance for them. The be able to work in groups from distance is an amazing tool for them. So we introduced Archicad in this third afternoon a week. They start to learn Archicad in the typical way, with developing some regular buildings, but the level that they reach in these 12 weeks is amazing for this studio. It's remember you, it's a third year studio, and this is some of piece of work of them. We mix housing with some pieces of equipment, leisure, sports. In this first stage of the studio, Diego works with housing. Maybe you can explain this better than me.
Just go faster with this. Yeah, and we've been working with the tool and the methodology for quite some time now. I'd say for probably more than 3 years, and those are some of the results. We were working with housing or residential bricks mixed with all the programs related to sports. But I think important is when the pandemic goes, we have the confinement, which we hard in Santiago. We saw this opportunity to deepen the working team. The architect environment. We've had a good relationship with Chile, so we're working sort of as a deposit information. We have a sort of element of different software that work with ArchiGAD differently, even that they all that geometry and information go to the African mode. So, from in that sense, you mentioned the regular classes. We saw that opportunity deep in the pandemic by introducing the cloud model, which also have the chance to work. They provided us.
Yes, so we have an architectural agenda that is centered on this thing that we show you before, and we have a technological digital agenda that is the third day of the week that we learn or teach to students ArchiCAD, a little bit of rhinoceros, grasshopper, and some visualization between motion. So we try to integrate all of these in one project. It's not easy, but these are our technological afternoons. This is the classes that we have. And the question is it possible to develop a BIM workflow methodology in the context of pandemic and online education with that we told you before, a group of students without previous knowledge of the software and adopting the BIM cloud model as a distant group developed process to improve the quality of proposal in a short-term studio? Well, the answer we think is yes. We have now like 3 semesters working together with Diego with this methodology, and the results are amazing for 12 weeks studio. So we are very happy to work with this methodology and with the help of Graphics of Chile and the BIM Cloud model. It's impossible to have a model that we are now. This is one of our students' model, and it's impossible to reach this kind of detail in plans, in the blueprints, in the model, in the visualization without this tool. It's the students are able to work together and simplify the process, and finally is like I say, they're able to work together more of the times in different cities at the same time in the same model. They ask for different part of the model, and they can work in different part of the model at the same time. Of course, this is not new for us, but it's new for a student in their third year of the undergraduate career. So, and it's an opportunity like to work like in our office later. So this is, I think, is very important.
Yeah, I think also the fact that we can also step in or go to the models, because we also can go into every single project, delete comments, have and so I think if we communicate with, there's another way of communication to forward projects.
Well, you can see now in this slide the training with Graphics of Chile. All our students have a training season with the people of Graphisoft, and they learn to work in teamwork with BIM Cloud in the same model, groups of 3 people working together in the same model in this context. For us, is an amazing experience, and for them, I think it's an incredible skill, new skill to after then when they are professionals. So this is part of the process. All the architecture sessions, are with the model. So it's like an obligation in the studio to show the model to could so me and Diego can see where are they working and what's the problems, the structure, criteria, etc. So it's very useful for the process, and it works very, very fine. We all the corrections, all the sessions are with the VIM models. They can extract a lot of material of these models, visualization, blueprints, like perspective sections, etc. And well, this is a little bit of the selection of final results. This is one of the models, not that we are now, but it's one of the best results that we have. This project wins an award inside of the university, and these final results are part of the last semester that they only make an equipment building. It's not housing included, only equipment, and is surrounded by a lot of new projects of housing. So they are in the middle of a very, very dense context. So this project includes I don't remember very well, but it includes like after office, after school for kids, a little bit of leisure in the bottom of the building with pubs, restaurants, and some cinema in the underground, and then I don't know, some play in the roof. It's a very, very interesting project in the middle of a very, very dense context. So you can see the level of the blueprints, the perspective section, the visualization of the interior spaces. Is for 12 weeks for us. It's a very, very impressive result. This is another one. This is in Quinta Normal, another district in Santiago. And this is in San Miguel, another project of the last semester. I don't know if Diego, you want to say something about the experience of and these results.
Maybe Diego.
Yeah. Well, this is our experience. I think is a very traditional studio, but we include this technology issue like a very important thing in our Studio 6, and I think is working, and we are very happy with the experience with the help of Graphisoft, and I think the result for 12 weeks we are used to work at least 18 weeks in a regular studio, and this studio has only 12 weeks, and the results we think are very, very, very good for the students. And I think the most important thing is the new skill that the students has now for their professional careers later. So that's it. Thank you to all.
Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you to all students.
Well, thank you very much, Camilo and Diego, for experience. And well, I think provides we must return to the.
Yeah, so we're running 1 hour late. I think that will leave us less than 30 minutes for the final roundtable. And if you may follow me, we are going to return to the main room for it. And it's here. Thank you, guys. Cool. I think we have almost everybody. And while we're waiting for the model to load, I actually do already have a few questions in mind that I'd like to ask everyone. I hope I'm not stuck. Yeah, I hope everyone can hear me well. So basically, my first question is that, well, first of all, thank you to everyone. We have guys who are engaged in Phygital discourses. We have guys who are engaged in cyber-physical discourses. My first question would be, if there's a need to actually differentiate these different discourses. I mean, as I actually get deeper into it, there are like mechatronics and other different ideas and concepts and terms that came up with in history. How do you think this concept can collaborate? What are their knowledge domain? Where's their authority? What's the use of actually having these concepts around? Anyone can just jump in if you have any thoughts.
Here I am. Yep.
Did you hear my question?
Personally,
yeah, cool.
I'd rather these. Yeah. Personally, I'd rather that, this distinction between, the real and digital was not something we got so caught up in. But I understand, given technology and how easy all these things are becoming, somehow we feel the need to categorize, whether we work in one mode or another. I would hope that eventually, we don't need to describe it in one way, but it's all part of the same experience. Yeah. But I understand the need for categorization in certain situations.
Yeah. I mean, actually, when I was researching into it, like, for instance, the Phygital term was actually coming from the consumer practice, like from the market, the user journey mapping, how to actually get people to buy stuff online. And the cyber-physical was actually way back in the 70s. It was actually more a military term coming from the United States. So I find that history kind of interesting, and that sort of shape how we deal with these concepts nowadays as well. No, maybe
Well, I actually think that, Phygital term is actually more older than the metaverse term. I guess you have heard like that yesterday.
Facebook
has got a huge rebranding. So I guess right now it is even harder to differentiate between like Phygital and metaverse. Like, what is bigger? And to my mind, I think like Phygital will be a more commonly used. Because like 20 years ago, no one used digital, but now I think we can see that Phygital is used both in marketing. It is even used like when we talk about banking. For instance, like in Russia, there has been like several Phygital offices open for banking. So to my mind, I think Phygital will become a more commonly used term, but like the public, I guess, is not aware of it yet.
I see what you mean. Since you mentioned metaverse, I hope Ivan is here because he was also discussing how their project are actually linked to a financing economic side of it. They're more connected to the blockchain.
Yeah,
practice.
That's right. Yeah, but related to the terms and the words to use for this is more about it's a perfect time to create our own, because there are like a proto-mirror world or like metaverse or magicverse or spatial computing, like extended reality. So like different names, even on major conferences related to extended reality and Phygital. They still fighting for what is the right term for this. So I really think that it's a good time to have your own term for this still. And regarding to Meta, I'm a bit worried because if the Facebook will continue pushing on this, they will steal the word, meaning this like if you're using this word, meaning you're kind of associated with data extraction and etc. So could be really really dangerous for I mean, I'm trying to personally start avoiding a word metaverse
Yes,
if Facebook will
yes.
continue to push it. Just it's my personal, okay. And from perspective of monetization, yes, I think it's just we found that it's kind of we start to feel it as a full cycle. So when you have tools to kind of create digital, in our case, digital art or digital objects, then you have a tool to present it in a space in a augmented reality, and then we have a tool to add a smart contract, so kind of create a value for someone for this. So it's like we feel it as a full cycle. And yeah, sorry, am I answering your question?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because what you're pointing out is basically each name, it denotes the community that's behind it. Like, for instance, in blockchain more connected to BSV, they would use MetaNet as opposed to Metaverse. And then the social media giants, now they are pushing for Metaverse, meaning that as opposed to like controlling or going directly into the physical space, they're extracting surplus value, as Nikolai was saying, from the platform, not just a social network, but a social network that can be engaged in a digital construction. So maybe, Nikolai, you want to jump in as well?
Yeah, sure. I can say as well that I share this kind of, not obviously the concern that everyone is mentioning, but also at Strelka we have actively tried to push away from this notion of the phygital. In fact, we had a whole program called The New Normal to move away from this distinction of the digital and the physical as two separate things. In fact, sometimes I find that this is kind of putting the conversation at the wrong place, as in it's a distraction to actually even talk about the metaverse without talking about its physical sort of infrastructural footprint, which is, I think, the real battle. Speaking of Meta and Facebook, like the race is, of course, there's the kind of the conversation around the term conceptually, what it implies, but also it involves the set of standards and the set of kind of constructs that are becoming the norm in a emerging industry. So in that sense, I think that there's at least as much work to whatever we call it, the notion of kind of understanding its physical infrastructural footprints that are also designed, not only what they allow to design on top of it, but actually how are the guidelines and tools for design that are constructed. Like many of people today talk about the design of the interface, the design of the of data trees, the design of the availability of different standards and data sets across models. This is the real battleground, I would say. And in that sense, I guess it's important to engage in this conversation at this time.
Yeah. Interestingly, what you're sort of implying is that the design of cities are not just the delivery of building design, but also like the set of codes and regulation and standardization that actually shapes how people build around the city. And I think that actually ties pretty well into... Oh, sorry, yes?
No, so just to double down on that, like the notion of the city as a platform has less to do with like what app is on top of the city, and more to actually understand this kind of the city as a stack that has to involve obviously software and data structures, but also institutions that are built to create the data sets, because again, Facebook's data set doesn't mean it's the society, it's not the data set that the society necessarily needs. So what are the institutions that are building the digital tools that are actually sort of layered on top of the urban infrastructure? That's what this is mean, not simply the digital as opposed to the physical, which was before it, quote unquote.
Yeah, I think that really ties it back to the BIM system that Miko Lewis and also Studio 6 was talking about, which traditionally you also mentioned the lowest denominator, the higher than lowest denominator, and the fact that BIM was more tied to a more traditional concept of dealing with bureaucratic procedures and tender. You can track all of the physical materials. And on the other hand, Metaverse is more about tracking digital materials circulating in the web. So do any of you see any sort of possible integration between the two? Like one doing with the logistics of the physical and the other doing with the logistics and transaction of digital objects? Like basically combining BIM with the Metaverse. Miko Luis and Diego and Camilo, are they here? Can't tell.
Yes, I'm here. I'm just trying to figure out a smart answer for that question.
Or casual
Also
answer.
thinking about it.
Well, for us,
what we're trying to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, and then I'll.
no.
chip in with my-
Go, Savi.
So I just wanted to say that for me, what this means, or what this could mean, is to make we call, every information in the model we often refer to as metadata or something like that. So not a metaverse, but metadata. So I'm wondering if our future does make it possible, or our future is to make it possible for the metadata to be more accessible from outside, meaning that finding much more interactive ways of accessing that data that is, stored by the BIM model. By this, what I mean is, let's say, Epic Games Twinmotion has come out with a clever way of visualizing, MEP structures in a VR environment while accessing the information tied to those BIM elements. At the same time, amused by a fantastic render of a night scene, etc. So usually in these sort of scenarios, you don't really have access to BIM data. It's usually just dry software or sheets or, schedules or something. Or what we try to solve is through our tool BIMX to make BIM data accessible from portable devices, let's say smartphones or iPads, etc. And that is also, so technically what that does is that you have direct access to otherwise a BIM platform's database, but from a much more convenient and much more usable platform.
Yeah,
I don't know if this.
Yeah, I think that you said is very important, and for us, for our point of view, that we are teaching to undergraduate students. They are in the third year, so they don't have knowledge, but they think that the knowledge is very difficult to access. And I think this is the word. The key word is access, because we give access to these students to a new knowledge that is very easy to learn finally. And this is, I think, is the different thing between there and us, because we have to learn maybe in very, very difficult environments, like from installing some software or something like that are very difficult, and you need very powerful computers and these kind of things. And in our times, I don't know, in the 90s or in the 2000s, and now they have a really, really easy access to this kind of technology, and they realize that they can do amazing things in a really, really, really short time. So I think the key is the possibility to access to from this BIM model to Twinmotion to different, I don't know, post-production software, graphic software. But the thing that they be forced to use this tool in this studio is like to them to realize that they can do this kind of things. In fact, when they see the results of the previous studios, they say that, oh no way, it's impossible that we can do something like that. And 12 weeks later they do it. So I think the key is the access to this easy way to work and an easy way to share. So I don't know.
Totally.
I think this is the
I think both of you are bringing two sides to the same coin. Like, one is how maybe enterprise-grade product can actually collaborate into a chain of intelligence, and the other is like how these knowledge can be actually disseminated and democratized through institutional education. And maybe just a question that I also want to ask Louis to join the conversation. Like, are you guys collaborating with NVIDIA in terms of how universal scene description or...
I mean, collaborating with NVIDIA, not so much. I mean, now that I mean, of course, we have to talk to them because we need to.
Yeah, now they're the biggest digital alliance.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we also need to support their graphics card across, all
True,
sorts of
true.
computers, all sorts of machines and stuff, and for like the Omniverse and the Universal Scene Description, which is from Pixar. That's now that I think Robert Cervelion, who was formerly at Woods Bagot, now is at NVIDIA. I have a much better connection to that stuff. But I mean, it's there's I'm not so interested in the formats. There's going to be other formats. There's plenty of formats that are supported and we can kind of shove geometry into. I guess it's how for us what's more interesting is how is this going to solve something for somebody and how easy it is to get in there. Like right now, USD is a great format. GLTF is another great format.
Yeah.
So that's for us. It's not so much about the format, and it's more about is this a couple of clicks? Do we need to develop a script? What level of our user is going to really take advantage of this?
Yeah, it's true. Actually, last roundtable, we have guys from Mozilla Hub itself to join, and then they really support the GLB format because it's an open data structure. It's a Creative Commons.
Exactly.
Everyone can participate. And actually, your work that uses Adobe Maximal, if I remember correctly, that was actually pretty interesting. And I wanted to tie that conversation to Valentina's work, which was capturing a lot human emotions and then to map that in interaction with architectural objects. So maybe do you guys have any comments on how this sort of physical motion can better bridge into the whole chain of design as well? I think Valentina is here. He's
yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. Amanda. I mean, obviously, as a part of the design and development of continuously operating systems, then the question is if we're gonna use the robots not just to build or do something, but if there are robotic parts that can be obviously at different scales and different type of application, but then the question is suddenly how does the human respond to a continuously changing system and what type of relationships, and predominantly because I'm particularly interested in looking at achieving motion through material behavior. Then there is also this type of new relationship between structures and human, because often the structure knows better than us what they can do. And so from my side, between the human machine interaction, it's really interesting if we give some sort of agency and intelligence to the system, what can the system communicate to us? And on the other hand, when you design continuously, especially continuously dynamic system, then there is a lot of relationship with how we move and how the body and different parts of the human body interact. And that's some of the those thoughts are definitely applied to the design of choreography or coordination of different parts. I mean, modeling the human body movement is very difficult, so especially when you do it. I mean, I'm sure Louis knows much better than me that. But I found, definitely some question around human-machine interaction. There some new questions that, I haven't found an answer for sure, but that this type of work kind of leads you to.
Yep. I mean, actually, it reminds me of one question that I think Alberto and I always ask in each roundtable is the evaluation of any Phygital or cyber-physical system, because we are also trying to find ways to evaluate, let's say, this roundtable format. If anyone has any input on how to actually evaluate without just tapping subconsciously into user data. Anyway, attention heat map or anything of that sort. Anything. Everyone is stuck in the same question.
Yes.
No, sorry. Could you articulate more the question? Because I mean, for me, evaluation is very like subjective as well, right? Like you want to know what is the aim of your system, or what, if you're looking, and often is a negotiation of different things, especially I think in architecture, where you don't have just quantitative evaluation criteria. That's the most difficult part, at least for me, working between
quantitative and
engineering and
qualitative.
architecture.
Yeah, you are right.
Sorry?
Yeah, you are right, because you have both ways of evaluation, the quantitative and the qualitative, in ways part of the methodology of research.
Yeah, so I think you really need to be able to evaluate anything. You really need to contextualize and understand, what are, for first case, the evaluation criteria. Because when I'm obviously engineer environment, it's, there are like performance are evaluated very differently than if you are maybe in a design environment, or you're trying to do something else. If you're making something to crawl, you evaluate how well the system, me with a amount of architecture. But if you're doing like a more complex system, then maybe taking consideration, I don't know.
Yeah, I really like your approach of actually having the maximum movement with a minimum actuation, and that actually, give a response to how we can be environmentally friendly while enabling architecture to actually move and interact. And that's also a sort of evaluation within how successful a cyber-physical system actually work with available energy in the environment. Actually, sorry.
Just an example about how to evaluate, or what we are evaluating now in this new way of life, virtual and real at the same time. I was just wondering about, for instance, this VR setup that we are using now, as a way of evaluating our designs in a more perceptual way, instead of just the data. For instance, BIM BIM. We had few examples here about BIM from Graphisoft, as well from Studio 6, related with how to design with these technologies and methodologies, and at the same time you are getting a lot of information, a lot of data. Yeah, that you can evaluate these models based on that information. But what if at the same time you can evaluate the experience of living inside these models, maybe in a virtual way? And it's another possibility that we can explore as an evaluation in this life of hybrid life that we are facing now. Any other example? I'm not sure.
Yeah, actually, speaking of which, it reminded me of something that I forgot if it's Luis or Ivan who mentioned, which is like a clean digital space, a clean blockchain. I think one of you mentioned that he actually support proof of stake and not proof of work because it's more clean. Can maybe you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, sorry, I have a small human monster that's going to be screaming in the background.
Hi, kid.
No, the clean was more in the cost, the energy cost of using that particular system. And that was in particular referencing the digital fashion on proof of work blockchains versus digital fashion on a proof of stake blockchain, which is orders of magnitude less energy costly than proof of work. So yeah, that was just a choice to also consider. This is something that my partner Elizabeth Bigger brought up, is that there's been studies done on the carbon shift, so the carbon footprint shift from one, let's say, consumer mechanism versus another. And what we don't want, let's say, is in these transitions to incorporating technology more intimately with our lives, to shift, let's say, to shift to a even heavier carbon costs, like in digital music streaming, which is what's happening now from CDs and tapes and LPs and such, and 8 tracks. Even though those are all sort of wrapped in plastic somehow, we've now gone to an even costlier carbon footprint with digital streaming services.
I mean, the carbon metrics right now is basically adding a layer of taxation, like another layer of mathematics on top of the accounting profile that we actually have. And I actually wish to direct this question to Nikolai because of the terraforming program. But basically, I mean, proof of stake is it's almost like engaging in a fully automated luxury communism, right? Proof of stake, right? And it'll be interesting to hear from Nikolai the terraforming aspect of thinking about clean digital space, or how they see it as a more preemptive approach to.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. And just to follow up on the last point, I mean, on the one hand, we may there could be an opportunity. Of course, obviously, the example of digital platforms being you're not buying the vinyl anymore. It's no longer wrapped in plastic, but you are basically streaming, which is very energy intensive. In a way, there's an efficiency of scale there that basically, if the energy required to power the data center or to power that activity was clean, that would be a step in the right direction, at least. If not necessarily solving the problem, at least kind of reorienting it in a way that's a very different conversation, where it's less about this kind of individual or what sometimes at Struck we call the millennial framework of environmental design, which is like basically what could we do at the consumer end in order to feel like we have a cleaner, let's say, footprint, versus again focusing the efforts at the more industrial scale, the more infrastructural scale of the equation, which could be basically part of the solution. And to that point, within the terraforming, if we are talking about the clean digital space, I mean, it's a difficult. I wouldn't know how to untangle that because again, these spaces are very much the product of the interface that is made available to us, but their actual entanglement is again, it's a technical problem that I think begins or is driven by currently private actors who are essentially bankrolling this infrastructure on their end using a very, for lack of a better word, stupid way of financing this, which is basically the kind of ad revenue model of like, if we can sell ads, we can fund a bunch of activities, and therefore we can build fiber optic cables and all sorts of infrastructure to allow this to happen. So I don't know if the part of the solution could be that if we are using these gigantic calculation machines, blockchains, to assign value, which is for all intents and purposes like sort of arbitrary, right? Perhaps the power that it took to generate that calculation could be linked more directly to to what value is. In other words, different coins, instead of being based on, I just read today, there's a squid coin based on the Squid Game. There's also like that is now also.
I'm dead.
Perhaps the way in which the calculation is performed that is what value is, and we could sort of link that more directly to create the incentives to create clean computational energy, which isn't just like a symbol of value, but actually is what value is based on the energy that was required to build it. Energy equals value, in other words. And blockchains are actually quite useful for that because they create a one-to-one relationship between value and labor. In this case, energetic labor. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's definitely some of the stuff that we've been discussing here within our program. Hopefully that at least has partly an answer to what you were asking.
No, that's super interesting. I mean, I think there are mainly 2 points. One is the kind of energy that's actually in circulation. The other is like the kind of value that's in circulation. And like, for instance, I mean, plastic to electricity, I think it's hardly comparable because some like plastic lasts for a million years, and electricity, as I understood from your institute, there's a research project like based on the Kardashev scale, like electricity can be easily mitigated with, let's say, solar power. But the recycling of plastic, it's less direct than that, right?
Well, both of these have like a material footprint, which is obviously different. But I guess to the point, like to bring a more materialist in a real sense, like material specific, material-based understanding of what value is. Yeah, I guess so, or good old-fashioned materialist in that sense, like pre-Marxist materialism. I don't know. There's something to this conversation of, especially in this kind of century that we're living in, where we're much more aware of the elemental impact of design. Like design is essentially shifting molecules around, and in the case of carbon, basically moving them from one place to the other. Hopefully, different material frameworks for value may emerge that are part of the solution more than they're part of the problem.
Yeah. And also maybe to the other side of the story, we wish to drop this question back to Fhygital and Beam guys, which is the attention economy problem that Nikolai also brought up. Like, what if we can actually use those computation for stuff that we need, like renders, as opposed to having like a bunch of programmers mining, solving cryptography that actually don't really have much use beside Bitcoin mining. Are we able to actually send computational power across the network and to trade directly and equate value to what we need? Like, for instance, in architecture, we need to render a lot. In any sort of phygital exchange, visualization and stuff like that are also pretty computationally intensive. Like, and any opinion on the data market or how it should be transformed in your initiatives view? I mean, Ivan, Daria, Luis, or Miko?
Yes, it's a really good question, Bright. I'm just thinking on like a good reply. Sorry for this silence.
Don't worry about it. I'm used to it. Yeah, because I think that also ties into the BIM's common data environment, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I should rephrase the question. Oh, is someone talking? Oh, Alberto, you're sounding like a robot right now. I can't understand.
Yes. I'm having Wi-Fi issues.
Right, no worries. Yeah. Sorry, so I was just about to rephrase the question. Maybe what do you think a further step of the phygital can be in terms of circulating value within the system? Attention value, energy value, affective experiences.
We were actually just approaching this question from the from the theoretical perspective, but I see that you might have some input, so I'll come and join in later. Sorry. Ivan, go ahead, please.
Oh yeah, so sorry. Yeah, just based on research we made on we made research on a privacy policy for Oculus, for example. So based on what we have now, they kind of owned. I mean, from perspective of what the value is. So the value of attention, right? You mentioned this. So the value of like gaze tracking of. For example, of gaze tracking, it's kind of going to biometric kind of data where you can look at something, but you're not saying to yourself that you're looking to this, or just not consciousness, not consciousness, and it's really kind of dangerous from my perspective because. What I see now that they already start testing of like advertising placement in the virtual reality. I mean, Facebook start testing this, and the fact that you can plug in an Oculus without having a Facebook account is kind of guarantees that you sign this privacy policy when you're entering the metaverse where they're building now. Meaning that all kind of data, especially data from cameras. Kind of helping you to track a VR headset is now going to Facebook. Data from where are you looking and probably what you're saying, and also just like as entering the house, the entering your like a living space. And yeah, so sorry for maybe too scaring or maybe saying too much, but it's like what is in my mind now is it's like I don't want it.
Yeah, that is actually super interesting in the sense that it manifests like such a superpower structure because of how much we're actually relying on a social network system that are not constructing for the common, but actually just a platform that doesn't actually take responsibility for things that they do. And I think Miko wanted to say something about this as well.
Yes, I wanted to mention just that maybe this topic itself would be so we were discussing whether that could be a very interesting topic for a design contest for us in the future.
Oof.
And that would be absolutely theoretical, as in theoretical architecture of how do you think such a metaverse looks like translated into architecture real
that's
terms.
True. Yeah,
because we were thinking about how the virtual network and the virtual offices all around the globe, as they were connected during the course of 2020 and still are, how they could be brought together into one building, but not be physically connected, but at the same time I'm not sure if you understand what I'm saying, but we were trying to explore this topic from the architecture perspective with students rather than just trying to give the answer ourselves.
Yeah. Interesting idea for a hackathon. Maybe that will be our next initiative with Alberto. And I think you did. Oh. You are still sounding like a robot.
Oh, yes. It's not my fault.
We listen like a robot
Yeah.
to Alberto.
We're trying. Yeah. I think many of the guests has to go. So maybe I would just like to invite everyone to maybe give a few lines over ideas that you would actually summarize this roundtable into. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Daria, if you want to.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I wanted to add about the next step of Phygital evolution.
Yes, that'll be
And I
great.
think, yeah, to my mind, maybe one of the technologies which might help make the Phygital or metaverse, whatever you want to call it, more user-friendly is actually cloud computing. Because, as everyone mentioned, such workspaces, such platforms often require GPU or CPU, which are quite expensive for many users. And I think in that case, many companies could provide their cloud services to companies, to basically customers, and maybe then it might help. However, here is the problem with the data privacy as well, and that the market might be separated or divided between few competitors, and it becomes not really diverse in that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, in general, I think just Phygital is only in its infancy, and we might face some problems with, of course, first of all, that there are too many companies which try to monopolize the market at some way, that we rely too much on social media networks, and that we rely too much on the hardware. And the possible solution is, of course, cloud services. Yeah, probably we will see new economy in the future, such as digital economy with NFTs and everything like that.
Yeah, that's actually a very brilliant comment. Maybe to think about ways we can peer-to-peer cloud computing. So when certain point in the network actually need more compute, we can all together direct our compute to that. Then we don't have to actually rely on big enterprise. But I mean, personally, I think that I hand over my data to, let's say, Google in exchange for its service. So I mean, I don't really complain, except that the cookies button, it's pretty annoying. But that's actually a good point. Maybe Diego, you also wanted to add some last comments as well. Oh, sorry. Camilo.
Oh.
So sorry. I keep saying Diego, and I was like, no one
No,
respond to me. That's
no problem. No problem. We are here together now. Well, for us, it's a new experience to expose this in this way. It's weird, and well, I enjoy very much the other presentations. It's like my private work is similar to this. I learned in another course in University of Chile than when we see some more experimental things, but the studio that we show today it's a very traditional, architecture design studio. So was very refreshing to see the other presentations, and well, I think the final like view of this is like see like technology especially improves their I don't know their I don't know the branches to all of the people with this context of pandemic. I think it's very interesting how people um, start to learn most of the time, like for obligation, these new tools. And as it's pretty amazing that how I don't know all people, our parents start to use this kind of tools like Zoom and or maybe new social medias that you said before. It's pretty amazing. So I don't know. We are happy with the result of the studio, and I think the students are grateful for learn new this kind of new technologies, and like I said before, in countries like ours, when the distance are huge, and we have I don't know in the extreme north people with I don't know 35 degrees. Of temperature, and in the south we have a lot of raining, and we see all together in one screen is pretty amazing. So working together. So
oh.
I think for us this is in a local way is how technology affects the architecture, teaching. So
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. I do think that to be able to disseminate knowledge without territorial or border constraint, it's for sure very
yeah.
important. Maybe Diego and Nikolai, if you have some last comments.
Just quickly, because obviously it's quite difficult to summarize such a sort of wide-ranging conversation. One of the things that has jumped to me was the notion of rethinking what we used to think of conventionally as architectural program in a way, in a very sort of from a very different light. I was in my presentation, I was talking about our education institute and how we brought in this kind of digital layer to rethink the programmatic affordances of, let's say, an education institute. That's one of the ways of doing this, but I think in all the different projects there was the notion that this additional layer could augment how we think about program in our design briefs, and therefore basically finding the opportunities for a much more responsive and maybe even interactive component to program based on the users. The users in some cases are good old-fashioned meaty humans, but also to various people's points, there's a whole range of other things that exist in the urban environment, from robots to cars, which are a different type of robot, to smartphones, to pacemakers, etc. So what is this opportunity of the quote unquote Phygital carry as we are thinking about designing these spaces with this additional layer in mind? I think is a really interesting future brief for us here at Strelka, but I'm sure for many others as well.
Oof. Yes, sounds sexy. Can I join again? Another year. Okay, cool. I mean, Sabi, Ivan, or Diego, if you have any last comment, feel free to jump in.
I just wanted to quickly mention, I think that what our approach was, at least last semester and also this semester when teaching at school in this phygital environment, was that students find a way. Students will find the way of how to work this out and how to work the best and what works for them the best to work in groups. And we did make recommendations. We gave them tools, but usually then they came up with 4 other solutions that were either just as good or even better than what we had in mind. So I'm not too worried of how academic education will eventually turn to digital or go back to physical and be fully online. These are all just students are clever enough to figure out what works for them the best, and we'll just follow in a way.
I do hope we wouldn't go back in our progress. But yeah, true.
Yeah.
We always find a way as architecture students. Ivan and Diego?
I can say just really, really short that after all the experience we get with working as a digital artist and creating these virtual galleries and doing augmented reality projects, I found it, after all, very useful to remind everyone that, after all, the digital is still physical. So it's like, it's not something in a cloud, it's not something in air, and it's just exists. It all has a physical infrastructure, and it's shocking someone. I mean, for people who are not working with this topic, they're like, "What?" I never see it. That's it's not here. So and it's really useful because to create some limits for this. What seems unlimited? I can copy a cat in the virtual world like a million times, right? It seems like it's unlimited, but it's good to remind everyone that it still has a shape in physical. Sorry to repeat everything 3 times, but it's just that's in my mind. Thank you.
I mean, like a good memes. The more time you repeat it, the better it gets. Love it. Cool. So, Diego is awfully quiet.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there are.
I am. I have a breath today, and I have so much here. But yeah, just my thought is, first of all, thank you for the invite. Stimulating hearing all of you. And, we are still, our university is still in conflict. We're recently opening up, so I think everyone in school is scary about back. As professors in the during the debate school, either we go physical or how we manage to both at the same sort of benefit going, and we'll see what happens there. Diego.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we should definitely all stay in touch. Anyway, so thank you everyone for coming. Alberto, are you sounding not like a robot now? Do you want to also? Not working. You still sound like a robot. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you very much for your efforts here. I think because it's super timely. We accept that we were all involved in the last weeks. And it's very interesting in a way that all of you contribute to this space, this sequence of spaces, and trying to replicate the reality in a quite provocative way in terms of, what can we do in using this space as opportunity to share a view among us and among all the actual stream as well. But it's probably really quite remarkable that after all this post-pandemic time, hopefully post-pandemic, I'm not sure about, we are starting to share more things than ever, using network, social media, but in a different way. this is a nice example. This platform started before COVID, which are like Zoom, for instance, or like many others. But thanks to these problems, now we are trying to be super creative in a different way, trying to be connected, just not using our faces. Now we are trying to share spaces. We are trying to share textures, experiences, sensations, performances, etc. throughout the internet, and trying to be more connected, even if it's not possible to be face to face. So maybe digital is mocking the real world, but maybe we are creating a real world. This is really motivating for me, and I think this is for all of you as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, Sabi, for being with us, and thank you for all of you.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to also give sincere thanks to all of our panelists and guests who actually spent the time. I mean, we're overrunning. I would also like to thank UCL for supporting this event. And I would like to deeply thank my colleague Alberto, who actually worked the entire night with me to actually get this and all the previous events. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, and hopefully see you guys soon.
It was a very interesting
Thank you
experience.
so much for having me.
Oh,
It was a great experience.
thank you.
More events and more interviews.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.